What's up, Goober? Back when I started taking improving at Counter-Strike more seriously, I wished that I had a level 10 friend who would just tell me everything they knew. That idea birthed this series. So far, I've done Mirage, Overpass, and Dust, and finally, we're on to Inferno. Inferno has a special place in my heart because I learned the mechanics, shooting, counter-strafing, etc. of Counter-Strike on Dust, on Mirage, but I learned the more nuanced, really interesting parts of Counter-Strike, such as the team play, execute, timings, trading, rotating, these more nuanced concepts on Inferno. So I have much to talk about with Inferno, but before we jump in, thank you to the sponsor of this video, SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a trusted automated CS2 trading site. It's super easy to use. All you have to do is pick something in your inventory, check how much it's worth, and then go get something new from the monkey. What's also super nice is the filters you can use to narrow down your searches. You can either use your skins to trade for new ones or deposit money with their 30% bonus offer. This becomes 35% when you use my code Wilson. Please use it. Using my code, you can also get up to $5 for free. Use my code Wilson, link is in the description. Quick note, after I recorded everything for this video and I was editing, Valve, of course, dropped the balcony update, extending this balcony outwards and moving the fence from here out to here, and they closed off Grave. So I've gone back and reshot anything where these changes have any relevancy. However, I couldn't reshoot literally every shot that included the old balcony, so there are moments where you're going to spot it, and if you do, just know that anything I'm talking about still works with this new update. Okay, let's get to know Inferno's early round timings. CTs easily beat the T's timing to half wall, allowing the CTs to peek down banana, but how about some util? Good T spawns will always beat the deep nade that CTs throw. But CT half wall mollies will easily land before T's get close. This anti-rush nade lands right on the head of a rushing T, along with this one too. Towards second mid, T's can be pretty close to bedroom by the time you peak as a CT. With the two best spawns to push apartments, the CT and the T will meet on this angle at about the same time. When pushing second mid, CTs will beat T's to this angle. T's will very easily beat your timing to spot your jump across mid. This is the same for T's peeking from bridge into bedroom. Lastly, if you throw the phase smoke from spawn, it very easily beats the T's running into middle. Alrighty, let's move on to what the CT side default looks like. Towards B, we have two riflers. These two are trying to take banana if possible. If not, then they're trying to hold car. If that's not possible, or it's just better, then they're gonna fall back and play towards B site. On A, we have the other three players, one of which is the long player. Now, the long player is typically the opper, and this player has so much freedom in what they can do, especially at the beginning of the round. This player could start the round double short, they could go into a double app setup, they could go 3 towards B and try to take banana with their B players. Long isn't a crucial part of the map to be playing at the very beginning of the round, so get creative and go to parts of the map where you feel like you're going to have impact. Next, we have our short rifler. This player is responsible for boiler and helping hold brackets here in middle. Lastly, we have the apps player slash the pit player. This player is trying to get info towards apps early, and then they are anchoring A. They're typically the last line of defense for an A execute, or they're the last player to rotate over towards B. The T side default is pretty flexible. However, the majority of rounds you play in pugs, it's most important that you guys play for car control at the beginning of the round and you leave some lurks elsewhere on the map. That can look like having 2 players getting to banana early, and then you have 1 player towards ramp who can spot middle and help with the B fight if necessary. Over towards A, we're gonna have 2 players run up second mid. They're throwing this boiler molly to prevent CT aggression, and then we have 1 player playing around here, and maybe they're jumping into boiler like this, and we have a second player getting into apartments. That way we have numbers towards B to take car control, while we have 2 players over towards A controlling apartments, allowing us to come back to mid in the mid round and take brackets control. Okay, Goober, let's talk about how to fight for car and banana as a CT. Your banana take starts from spawn because banana is a util heavy zone. It is a tiny amount of space. Look how small this is, which means that util is incredibly powerful here. So as a CT, when you're buying, you really want to prioritize buying util just because it's so strong. The other factor is that you have a very clear choke point right here. Dropping a smoke on it is very powerful as well. So having util as a CT towards B, incredibly important. If you can, I would really try to make sure that the person you're playing B with has a microphone. Playing B with somebody who doesn't have a microphone is incredibly difficult because you guys just need to be on the same page. You need to know what you're doing. I've seen people run to coffin while their teammate runs up and tries to take banana. It makes no sense. They're on whole different worlds. You guys need to be on the same page. So if you're playing with a duo or you know somebody on the team has a mic, have them come be with you, and then you guys can yap about what you're going to do. That guy's crazy. This area here is what I call the banana yap zone. As you're running through this spot, even from spawn, this whole long run towards banana, you and your teammate need to be talking about what you're going to do. Who's going to throw the molly? Who's going to smoke deep? What's the plan here, right? Now, your default basic car hold setup can look like this. The first player is going to come up, they're going to throw a close molly, and then they're going to tuck sandbags and play anti-flash, which means that they're staring at the wall so they don't get blinded by flashes that the T's throw. Your second player is going to come up and smoke bottom B. Maybe they'll throw an HE, or they can hold it so that you guys can double nade something afterwards. We have bottom B smoked. We have the close half wall mollied. This gives us info if the T's are rushing right. Either they burn through it or they smoke it. And then once they're through, let's say they smoke it, then boom, we're both here to swing off of them running through. One important note for the sandbag player is that you essentially need a smoke to play sandbags because it's a very commonly mollied spot. If you don't have a smoke, you're just gonna have to swing through the molly and you're probably gonna die, right? And you can play around the edge of the smoke like this. If it seems like the T's are running up fast, then as this corner player, you can just pop a flash behind your sandbag player. That way the T's are running up, they're holding for the player, maybe they're spamming, and then they're gonna eat this flash and your sandbag player swings with that. One really effective position you can play at sandbags is playing tucked in this corner here. The reason for this is that T-mollies will often miss this corner. If they're just throwing a molly willy-nilly, kind of loose, you're gonna have plenty of space. Even a deeper one, you can tuck behind it. T's are gonna molly this, swing corner, and not expect you to be back here playing tucked in this little cubby. You're gonna get 2-3 free kills. It's sick. One thing people get wrong about playing corner is that they think that they need to hold this angle and stand right on this on angle and take this 1v1, 1v2, 1v3 duel. You don't have to. Now, what you can do instead is kind of spot this angle, right? You have to be worried about the barrels boost, so you can spot above here just to make sure nobody's standing on the barrels. You can spot over here to make sure nobody's swinging or boosting behind half wall, and then you can take timed out peeks here, right? Peek, okay, come back, wait, peek, okay, come back. Or you can swing off of util. If the T's throw a molly towards sand, your sandbags player smokes it, maybe they throw a flash, you play off of the sound and hear them swinging up, and then you swing them on the timing of them swinging towards sandbags. So they're already past this corner angle, now they're swinging sandbags and they're not holding you anymore. Another way you can make this fight easier is just by flashing for yourself. You just throw a flash like that, this forces T's off of this angle, or they have to be full blind when they take the fight with you. So when in doubt, you can do that setup, right? One corner, one sandbag, smoke deep, molly close. This molly, if they don't smoke it, they're not rushing right. It buys you time then to throw some util behind it, which then allows you to transition into a banana take. So this corner player who still has their molly can throw a molly towards barrels. This player sandbag can swing out and they can nade towards broom by aiming below this window against this orange wall. This corner player too, if they're not worried about somebody peeking them here, can double nade it with them. You can flash multiple ways. This sandbag player can sit here, left and right click at this thing, and then toss their flash, bang. This one is somewhat visible. This player can throw these if you aim towards the bottom of this and left click jump throw. This is going to land on the roof and be super annoying for T's to have to turn. You can also do the same flash by just aiming high and throwing it like that. So one key principle here is that you always want to block one of these two at the minimum if you're going to try to take banana. You can't have both be an option for T's to sit in, because then when you swing, you're getting double swung from both sides, which is why this corner player having a molly is so strong, because then they could just block barrels, right? They just molly it. Now we only have to worry about broom. The other option you have to kind of block one area is to double nade it. Bang, bang. we're almost guaranteed to get a kill if somebody's there, or at least we get them down to 1 HP. And the same goes for Broom, right? If we double nade Broom, then we're gonna do a ton of damage or kill somebody, and then we can swing off of that and focus on barrels. Now, when you're playing Banana as a CT, it's important to really keep track of the T's economy. That way you can play anti-rush when you're expecting that the T's are on a low buy, right? They have max, they have tech 9s, they're just gonna run at you. The other important thing to keep track of is just how are the T's approaching Banana. If you've played 6 rounds and not a single time has a T run into you aggressively, right? They've been pretty passive. Well, that means that we can save our util. We don't have to throw this close molly, right? Maybe molly barrels instead, get up and just insta peek with a deep smoke, right? Somebody throws a bottom B smoke, insta peek and just find this one guy who's lurking every round because the T's aren't very heavy in Banana, right? Keep track of what the T's are doing. This is incredibly important, or else you're going to be wasting util and you're not going to be taking the space when it's like very free to take because the T's just aren't fighting for it. When you're swinging down B, and I've mentioned it, right? Smoking bottom Banana, you need the smoke. If you don't have the smoke, they can just sit with an opper right here, or maybe somebody's just ramp and then they hear that you guys are swinging down Banana and then they just come and swing you car. Always smoke bottom Banana if you're trying to take Banana. It's super important. Let's say you want to get more aggressive into T's, right? You don't want to play for car. You don't want to play for the second timing of taking Banana. You just want to take Banana immediately and swing into him. One smoke you can throw if the T's are throwing a car molly consistently is called the Furia smoke, where as you're running up, you just left click your smoke down here, boom, that smoke plumes, it's going to take out the molly and you can peek car, or you can swing through the smoke and peek half wall here. If you don't have anybody to flash for you and you want to make this play, you can flash for yourself by throwing the flash I showed earlier, where you just throw it against the roof, boom, and then you're going, you're sending it and you're getting a bajillion kills. In terms of early HEs towards Banana, a lot of people throw this one and just call it a day. This nade is good against bad players, bad against good players, because good players are going to avoid the timing of getting hit by that nade, right? A good player with a good spawn is going to get out and get towards Broom and avoid it. They're going to get towards barrels, right? They're going to be past it. It's only going to hit people if they go towards Banana with a really bad spawn. Instead, I'll show you a few HEs that are going to do more damage. If you think the T's are going to rush and you want to HE them, you can run along this backside, left and right click. As you're running, you just aim up at that bit right there of the roof, and then you let go. Boom, this lands right here, which is going to do a ton more damage because it's good for the good spawns, right? The good spawns are going to get hit by that nade. Another option against aggressive T's is just banking it against the wall. I just aim below the right side of this window, and this is going to land right here, and this is going to do a ton of damage against T's with good spawns who are running along that right side. In terms of nading the two cubbies, nading barrels is obviously super easy. You can just throw it there. If you want to nade Broom, this is super important, and for some reason not a lot of people know this. You just aim above, like at the top of this window, and you want the nade to bounce within this block of the orange wall, and that's going to land right within Broom. Now, I think for the most part, nading Broom is better than nading barrels because people are very comfy jumping into Broom because not a lot of people know how to throw util into Broom. One really good setup you can run on Banana to hold car is the coffin flash setup. You just have one player come here, maybe they throw both pieces of util, they throw a deep smoke and a close molly, and then they're just playing anti-flash right here. The teammate is going to stand right here and aim at this wire, this antenna right here, and once this person, the corner player, calls, hey, they're up, right, they're fighting car, this player just left clicks a flash, boom, and then this player is swinging off of that. This flash is going to full blind every T up here, bang. This is a really good way to punish T aggression, right? If they're running into you every round, this is a great way to get 2 free kills, fall back, play a 5v3. It's sick. And then if your teammate swings and they don't see anything and they want to peek car, you can throw this flash where you just aim above this pipe up to the roof, left click, and this is a beautiful car flash that's going to blind the T's up here. So once your teammate swings, it pops behind them, bang, 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 free kills. Here's some supportive util. If you have a teammate who wants to go peek B, right? Maybe they're opping or they're just going to send it down. You can stand here against this pillar in CT and then aim in the middle of the sign and W jump throw while left and right clicking. I know, a little awkward, but that's the best way to do it because these flashes pop just right above the roof and are going to full blind any T's running up Banana. Playing B, your smokes are incredibly strong. So you want to throw the deep smoke towards Banana, right? If you have a chance to take Banana or you're wanting to take banana. If you guys are really low on util and there's no chance you're going to be able to take banana, then it's not worth throwing the smoke because it doesn't really do anything for you, right? So you want to save your smokes, and you want to force the teas to force the smokes out of you. You don't want to just be throwing your smokes just for the comfort of having something smoked. If we start B, one guy goes sandbag, the other's playing corner, and we don't hear anything. There's diddly squat noise. It's fully quiet. There's no reason to smoke half wall unless we have a really like cerebral, oh, they're about to pop through half wall and pop B. The point is, you don't want to be smoking something off if nobody's there behind the smoke to be smoked off. I want to make a note of this. The most useless piece of util on banana is a deep molly. This molly doesn't do anything, because anybody who's running into banana with a decent timing is going to be ahead of it, and anybody who's has a bad timing might burn a little bit, but it doesn't stop them, and people can still just hold car from behind this molly just fine. One note for if you took banana. If you took banana, right, we have all this space, bottom B is smoked. Anchoring banana from one of the cubbies is super risky because it's a very tradable position. Sure, I have all this space, I have this smoked off, but once the smoke fades, even if I have a smoke, I have to throw the smoke from here, and the T's are going to hear that and they're going to know I'm in the cubby. So anchoring B from a cubby, really risky. I would say for the most part, if you're alone, you should be jump spotting from car, and you can jump spot fairly safely like this. You just run to the back of the car and you just keep jumping. You can also come half wall and just jiggle here. You don't need kills. That's the beauty. If you take banana, it is so much space that if you see somebody and you see the T's are retaking B, you can just fall back, call for a rotate, maybe smoke off B right here, and then bang, the T's are blocked, and it's a really uncomfy situation for the T's. The time when you do want to be playing in one of these two cubbies if you took banana is if you have a teammate with you who can take contact for you or swing off of you, right? If you play in one of these committed angles, let your teammate just bait you, you get the first kill, and then they swing off of that and kill anybody else who's trying to hard clear you. In terms of angles to play to actually fight, I much prefer standing on top of car around this area rather than actually playing car. People are like pretty good at spamming car through the bottom B smoke, so I don't want to be doing that. I just want to be on an off angle like up here or even up here. That way, if somebody peeks me, I'm way higher than they expect me to. The other option is playing towards half wall. You can hold this angle like this, or you can play towards the corner and hold an off angle like this. Another option is playing in here. This is not visible by T's if they're peeking this. They have to scale up, and boom, all of a sudden you're in that corner. That one's more risky and better if you have a teammate with you who can play off of you. The point is, don't just sit car, right? You're very spammable. It's very spooky. Let's talk about some retake utility for car, because this is so strong, especially in the mid round where your team is really needing some info and you have some util to throw. The first util set you can throw is from this pillar right here. You stand in the middle of it, you left and right click jump throw at the left side of the sign, just in the middle, and the molly you aim like this, very dark line, just up and into the corner of it right about here, and you W jump throw that molly. I think it gets extinguished if the smoke has already landed, but I'll show you the full util set. Throw the smoke, boom, boom, boom. W jump throw, left and right click, throw the molly, and then bang, you have this mollied out. The only gap are these close angles, and those are very flashable. You can just send flashes behind you, bang, and then you're swinging, and you know that they're funneled into this like little triangle right here. Another util set you can throw is right here. You just stand right here, and then you look at this part of the first oranges. You shift walk, left click, throw your smoke, and you do the same with your molly, and this is a really easy car retake set. Here's a really chunky HE you can throw that's going to land behind half wall, and you can throw it from CT. You just slide against this back wall until this wall meets the side of this window. Okay, so not out here, but boom, right here. And you're going to aim in the middle of this little orange splotch down here, and you're just going to take a step and left click jump throw. Bang, this is going to land on top of half wall. Anybody back here takes 50, here, right? It does a ton of damage. You can throw the same nade from coffin. You just jump up onto coffin. You want to just stop holding forward right as you get up, and then you're going to aim at this bottom bit of this pipe, and then you're going to run forward and left click jump throw. Boom, there's your half wall nade. If you and a buddy learn these and you guys throw these together, you're gonna tilt the heck out of your opponents. One last fundamental concept I need to tell you about with Banana is that CT aggression beats T aggression, and that is purely because of the timings of the space. If CTs are going aggressive and peeking into Ts as they're running up, the Ts will always be in this area here. They're gonna be fairly close, but the CTs always get to peek them as they're holding W into you, which is perfect. That's what you want, right? So if you're playing against a team who is playing super aggressive Banana, you either want to be aggressive into them and peek them before they can peek you, right? You get to peek this rather than you getting peeked right here, or you want to play more passive. Don't play a kind of defaulty, corner and sandbag setup against a team who's being really aggressive and throwing a ton of util at you car. So a more passive setup could look like a double nade towards middle Banana, and then you give car early, then that frees you up to throw the retake util. So, okay, we gave Banana early because we thought they're going to be really aggressive, but they ended up not being aggressive. So now we can throw the retake util and retake car. But if they were aggressive, then they're going to eat those grenades, use a ton of utility to take car, and then all of a sudden they're just blocked B. Let's move on to how to hold B site as CTs. One crucial concept about B site is that part of the reason why you want to fight for Banana or fight for car, or at least feign that you're fighting for that space, is that you want Ts to burn out the clock and to burn utility in trying to take this space. Because if you give this space for free, the Ts have all of their util, they take the space very quickly, and then they can threaten a B exec with a ton of utility, and you have a minute 30 seconds on the clock and only 2 smokes. So force the Ts, condition them into burning util on Banana, using their smokes, using their mollies, using their flashes, etc. So then when it does come time later in the round to execute B, they have less util and less time. In terms of where you want to position, it highly depends on what gun you have and what utility you have. If you're playing CT, this is actually a pretty decent spot to be in if you have like an MP9 or some sort of short range gun, because you could be taking fights just right here, right, in these close angles. The big thing is that playing CT, you really want to have a smoke, because if you don't have a smoke and you swing this, then you're exposed to all of these angles back here. So playing CT with a smoke out and just spotting can be really effective, because once you feel that execute is coming through, you can drop your smoke. The other benefit is that of any position on B, you get info that the Ts are car or are throwing util the earliest from CT. This is the best info position on B site. So you'll see a lot of pros playing CT for that reason, right? They can spot info, they can spot a peek, and then they can drop a smoke as a reaction to that. Now, if you're blessed with really good teammates or you're playing on a stack, then having one of the A players drop their util to you, their smoke and their molly and maybe their HE in this corner is so valuable, because then if you're fighting for car early and let's say you burn your smoke on the bottom B smoke, but we're not able to take Banana, then once you guys leave, you have another smoke right here to pick up and use for this B block smoke. Playing on the boost on CT is really strong in certain times, especially if, again, you have an SMG or not an amazing weapon. One thing to note is that when you're playing up here, you have to be aware of these smokes and try to body block them. I can't body block this because I threw it as a CT, but if you see that smoke coming, body block it so then it falls down here into CT and you still have vision above the smoke. When thinking about positioning, right, we have to think about individually what gun do we have and what util do we have, but we also have to be thinking about our teammate, where are they positioned. One general rule you can use on B and on every map in the map pool, it's just a CS thing, is that if you want to create a natural crossfire, you look at both players' positions and you see who has the first contact, right? So let's say we have a teammate second oranges and I'm Coffin. Here, I have first contact. I'm gonna see the Ts before my teammate can see them. So the rule is that the person who has the second contact, so this player, should then take first contact. That way, I'm not taking a 1v5 here and then this teammate is taking a 1v5 here. Instead, I'm going to play safe and I'm gonna let this player take first contact. That way, when they do and I peek, Lurk, we can both be fighting at the same time. Now, that's not a universal rule to apply to every situation, right? If I'm opping, I'm gonna sit on this angle and just hold it and kill somebody and then fall, and then maybe I'll play off of my teammate's contact. Or if I'm just spotting with util, right, I'll just spot it, then I'll drop a piece of util and then, you know, play safe or reposition after that. But if you're expecting an execute to come in, or you're expecting the T's to contact up, then that's a really effective way to make sure that both of you can fight at the same time. Okay, let's talk about more positions on B. Coffin is a really great place to play, and that is because of the util you can throw from here. I just showed you one piece, so you can spot back here, right? Just jiggle it, see if anybody's peeking, and then if you left and right click just from this corner around this area, left and right click at the tip of that roof, this is your B block smoke, right? So you can just throw that and block B. Another way is if you line up in this corner and you see where this like wire thing meets right here, leave your crosshair on it, come up and then just jiggle right here. You see somebody, back up into the corner and just left click. And that's another blocking smoke. Both of those are great ways to just get info and then block the T's if you see them. Now let's say you're playing Coffin and the T's are executing and you're not smoked Coffin. A great flash you can throw near this corner here, crouching and then aiming at this line right here, left click jump throw, and then this is going to pop right in front of Coffin, and it lets you jump up and not be blinded by it. So you can throw that and then peek on top of Coffin, or peek from down here, right? Just swing this. This is also great if you get smoked Coffin, right? If you get smoked Coffin, you're holding this flash, you throw it, maybe you play anti because you just want to make sure you don't get blinded, and then you swing through the smoke and you take these fights with your teammate. I generally detest sitting up here and holding this angle. I think this is such a good fight for the T's. If a T is peeking this, they're always going to clear this, and this part of Coffin is fully wall bangable. You see, there's nothing in here except the wood. So I don't really like playing up here for the most part. If I'm opping, maybe I'll take this angle, bang, and then immediately just try to fall off. However, rifling, I really don't love it. The one time I think it is pretty good to play up there is if the T's throw a not amazing Coffin smoke. Sometimes the smokes are going to be pretty deep and are going to leave you a gap right here. And in that case, maybe the T's won't actually peek you and expect you to be there. Another important note is that some Coffin smokes land on top right here, and these smokes provide a big gap to the right to lurk through it. Some more util or options you can do from Coffin if the T's are executing B is throwing a smoke towards this corner and then playing behind this, right? If they smoke you Coffin, then this smoke gives you space to get out here and play behind the pillar. And then if the T's want to push through it, then they have to push through a smoke, and that's pretty awkward. You can also flash for yourself just by throwing flashes above this building on the right. This is good on retakes too. But as T's are scaling up and they're trying to clear Coffin, these really easy and reactable flashes just allow you to swing in front of them and make these fights easier for you. One more thing you can throw is that if you're rotating in from CT and you know that the T's are still scaling up this way, is if you run through church and you instantly throw a flash like this, bang, you can swing off of this, and this is going to land right in grill and not blind you or your teammates playing backside. For a more passive approach, if you get smoked off Coffin and you really don't want to push this, maybe you don't have a smoke to lurk out, or you know, you're just not feeling it, then just throwing flashes above your teammate backside can be really effective and really helpful, because any T coming up this way, you can just throw flashes like this and it won't blind your teammate peeking out from new box or peeking out from dark, but it's right in the face of T's who are holding them and trying to find this pick. Dark isn't the most amazing place to play, to be honest, on a B execute. The benefit of dark, I think, gets better and better later into the round, where T's are going to be a bit more sloppy in clearing everything. You're hoping that the T's really don't expect you to be tucked back here. I think just holding this angle off rip, if your aim is on it, then sure. Otherwise, it's just not an amazing fight for you. And it's pretty limiting because you only have one angle to swing out of, whereas with new box, you have two angles to fight from. New box is a really powerful place to play. The downside is that most T's know how to molly new box at this point, so it's just more expected that you're going to be playing towards new box. I would say if you have a smoke, that makes it even better, because then if this molly does come in, you can drop your smoke on the molly and create a lot of confusion for T's as they're clearing up this way. You can hide in the smoke, you can play on this side of the smoke, right? This gives you more space to play around. You can push through that side. Pillar is actually a pretty underrated spot to play in. The huge benefit of pillar is that, for one, it's less expected, right? Not a ton of people play pillar, and two, you're going to dodge a a lot of flashes by playing pillar because you have a giant pillar in your face blocking a bunch of flashes, right? A lot of flashes are going to pop around this area or around this area on this balcony. And so if you play an off angle back here, then you're going to miss all those flashes and get these kills right here on T's who probably are a pre-aiming new box rather than pillar. The downside is, of course, it's a very exposed position. So if the T's are swinging with like good spacing in between them, you could be facing a 1v3 and you're very tradable. Second, orange can be a really effective place to play if you have an SMG or maybe a shotgun if you're being silly, maybe a 5.7. You can force close range angles just by playing off of your coffin player's contact, right? If they're playing back here, then you guys have a really natural crossfire where this player can play this, right? They'll take first contact and then you swing off of their contact, finish up kills. The problem, kind of similar to dark, is that it's a very committed position. So once again, you are very tradable here. First oranges is rough. I really don't like playing first oranges. For one thing, T's can see your feet under here. So if you're playing first, you can't hide in first. If T's are peeking this, they see you. They know you're there. So with first oranges, you don't want to be playing this angle. You want to be playing angles like this, where you're fighting the cross right here. One way you can do that is with this flash where you aim above this bit of the wall, just on the top of it. You toss that, bang. And this flash is going to pop below the wall, which allows you to swing with it and not get blind, which is really nice. So some decent setups to play. First orange plus CT boost or CT. That way you guys are trapping this area and you're playing for these close fights, right? Coffin plus new box is also just a classic, really good combo. Typically you want to let the new box player take first contact and then the coffin player swings off of that new box player's contact. The other option too is, let's say the new box player takes contact, you take contact, you guys get a kill or two, then you can play this crossfire if you're not smoked off coffin, right? If you have a player hiding new box, then coffin player can essentially protect them and hold the run up. And then when this player takes contact with the T who's, let's say, trying to hard clear coffin, then that's when the new box player can swing and get that kill easy. So a lot of crossfires between coffin and new box. Next, let's talk about how to play long / arch on CT side. In NA, we call this position arch. In EU, they call it long. I'll try to stick to long because I actually prefer that call out. So then you can call this arch and that's more specific. So the long player is typically the opper, which if you've seen my other map guide videos, you know that the opper's position on CT side is always super flexible. Playing long, I'm going to tell you about all the different ways you can open around the different plays you can make both with a rifle and with an op, along with how to actually hold brackets, which is what I'm going to call this area here. One very easy way you can open the round by playing long is by nading bottom mid. You can just run out this way. Don't swing too wide. You don't want to expose yourself to ramp. Run out this way, aim at the chimney right there, and left click your nade. You can do the same thing with a molly, and this molly is going to land and burn out Mexi and bottom mid and funnel anybody who swings out mid into this space here. A big reason you want to do this is not only for the damage you're going to get from the HEs if the Ts are swinging out mid, but also for conditioning. If you condition the Ts into thinking, hey, if I run out mid, then I am going to tank 50 damage, that grants you more space because then you can start making cheeky plays like mollying bottom mid and then playing this angle and killing any unsuspecting T who's just running up alt mid. It's a gamble, but it's a gamble supported by the fact that you've conditioned the Ts into being scared of running out mid. So off of that conditioning, right, I showed you the second mid peek, you can also go for a mid push. If you swing out mid, throw this HE, go gun out, swing out this way, and then you can start shift walking around here. You can swing ramp if you want to. Another thing you can do is get close and then swing past ramp, right? If you're expecting an opper to be sitting on this angle or maybe up here, swinging past them can be really strong because boom, you're past them and then you're killing Ts who are here bottom banana who are really not expecting a push from mid. If the Ts are getting really aggressive and running up middle and taking the space fast, you can throw an early pop flash from this corner right here. You just stand right here and then up from this corner to the roof and you left and right click throw your flash, boom, and then you're swinging with this. This flash is impossible to react to as a T, so if they're running, they're rushing, they're closing distance, that can get you some pretty free kills. The scary part is that if somebody's in Mexi, they won't really get blinded by this. So because Mexi is a concern, you can throw that molly, get back here into this corner, throw your flash, Ready, bang. Another cheeky play you can make to get aggressive is by getting into this corner. If you look at the wall, you see this dot right here on the ground. You just go in between that and up here, and you just left click at the orange wall. This provides you a lurky mid smoke. It allows you to lurk through this right side and isolate a fight towards Mexi or towards bottom mid. If nobody's here, then you can take this fight towards second mid and again catch T's not really expecting you to be here. One supportive play you can make is that if your short player or your apps player sees that the T's aren't throwing a molly into boiler, then from long, you can just aim at the corner of this building and run jump throw. And these are perfect flashes to blind T's who are running up second mid. To support your mid aggression, one smoke that is insanely good to know is called the phase smoke. You throw this from spawn, you just go to these two wires right here, and then up here, you aim at the left side of this design in the roof right here, and then you W jump throw. This smoke lands in the middle of mid, and so it's going to block vision from ramp, from Mexi, from bottom mid, and this allows you to get down and either push second mid if you want to, right? You can get up here, take this peek, or get down and play behind the smoke and hold an angle like this. The problem is that your timing is pretty screwed up. If you don't know the instas, you can learn the instas for that from spawn. So if you're throwing like that lineup that I just showed you, your timing is going to be screwed up. So it's more so a smoke to allow your teammates to get aggressive. You can get plenty of kills by throwing that smoke, right? And then coming up here to top mid and just holding the smoke. Because what T's will do is either they're going to spam it and be super obvious and you can spam back, or they're going to HE it to clear behind it, and then you're top mid just ready for that situation. Okay, before we talk about how to actually hold brackets and hold this mid space, let's talk about some early aggressive op plays you can make from brackets. The first and most obvious, the one everybody knows, is the ramp pick. One thing here is that I much prefer to peek to pre-aim the bottom right here for this headshot angle that people will play rather than this angle up here. I just find that this flick is significantly easier than this flick, because if they're standing on top of this ledge, much more of their body is going to be visible to you, making this flick significantly easier than flicking onto that little headshot angle. This play is typically best if you know that the T's don't have an op. It's a really easy fight for the T opper to win. One thing you can do if you're not 100% sure is jump the cross, spot if they have an opper holding it, and if not, if you see a rifler, then you go for the peek. Another common peek you'll see is the Mexi jump peek. This one, you're not swinging out wide enough to see ramp or be visible from ramp. Instead, you're swinging out this way, so then if somebody jumps around this corner is trying to jump into Mexi right there, you can get that kill and then fall off really easily. A more aggressive play you can go for, similar to on T side, is mauling bottom mid and then posting on second mid. Again, this is dependent on your conditioning. Have you made the T's scared of pushing out mid early? If you have, then going for this pick, bang, you get the kill, you fall, can be really effective. Another thing you can do to peek ramp is have your short player boost you right here. Then you have a really nice angle to peek ramp. And this ramp player is obviously not going to be holding for this, right? They're going to be holding down here. And then all of a sudden you're peeking from up this way. Okay, now let's actually talk about holding brackets, which is this area here. The number one idea I need to impress upon you about this space is that this space is not a bomb site. You don't need to commit your life and everything you have into holding this space. You can play this space for info and then fall back. You can be more tactical about how you're going about fighting this space or maybe not fighting this space. One general rule about Inferno is that the T's want to take both brackets control and car control. That way they can threaten and execute both towards B site and towards A site. So if you look at minimap and you see that your team has banana control, that makes it less important that you maintain the space, because you can reasonably expect that, hey, the T's are probably over towards A, and you can play off of that info and expect and execute. However, if the T's took car, if your teammates over on B have zero info and are just sitting on site, then it becomes a bit more important that you maintain this space. That way, if you get the info that there's a lot of players towards B, then you and your short player can get aggressive in the mid round and looking for this lurker towards A or just hunting for info. So in terms of holding the space, one mistake I see a lot is players smoking this at the very start of the round. You have a good amount of time before you have to worry about a T pushing you here. Like we talked about towards banana, you typically want to smoke off brackets as a reaction to T's making sound. If they're fully quiet, you haven't heard anything, and there's a lot of noise towards B, smoking brackets isn't very necessary. It can even be to your detriment, because then you can't get the info you want from mid, and you can't take this fight, you can't go look for the lurker, right? Throw your smoke off of reaction. If you notice that the T's are just defaulting, right? Maybe they're 3 towards A, 2 towards banana, and you don't want to get peeked from mid, then dropping your smoke preemptively is fine. In terms of your mid smoke, there is actually a bad way to smoke mid, and that's throwing it too shallow. It blocks off info from boiler, and a smart player who's playing boiler and sees how big the smoke is going to use that to isolate fights towards short. They can be all the way out here peeking this angle, and they are not visible to you from long. So instead of throwing it shallow, make sure you get it nice and deep. Boom. That way, if anybody peeks out boiler, you can still get that kill and help your teammate short. One cheeky and safe way you can re-smoke brackets without having to peek it is by making sure that this wall cuts through this window. So anywhere in this range, you're just up against this back wall. Anywhere this wall cuts through the window, you aim in the middle of these 3 rocks, the darkest ones up top, and then you just left and right click jump throw, middle click jump throw. And this smoke, bang, 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 is going to land in bracket, but you don't have to peek it. And then once it's up, now you can peek it safely. Your positioning when you're playing long is going to be fairly dependent both on the gun you have, right, of course, and also where your short player is playing. If your short player is playing more tucked like this, either on this angle or closer on this angle, or up close like this, then you want to kind of copy them and play a tighter angle like this, more towards the cubby. That way you guys have a crossfire here, and if the T's run out, you both can fight them. But if your short player is playing deeper like this, and maybe they're just holding boiler more passively, then you don't want to commit too hard to this mid fight. Otherwise, maybe you'll just take a 1v5 and your short player is just running away towards site. So in that case, we can play mid more so for info rather than to actually hold it. When you are on a low buy, playing against this close wall can be super strong, because if your short player is jiggling this and they take contact against a player close, you swinging off of that contact, or just timing out a swing if you think somebody's peeking arch as this player is peeking short, right? You swinging off of that contact is really strong. For the most part, what you're going to see as a long player is a smoke right here, and then the T's flashing short and getting out short. What you do off of the smoke depends on how good the smoke is. If they throw smoke like this gives you much more opportunity to make a play around it, right? It's very nadeable, you can spam through it. This is significantly easier to fight through. What I'm comparing that smoke to is a deeper long smoke like this. This is a much better smoke. So if the T's are throwing this kind of smoke, then you more so just want to rotate over towards site rather than trying to fight through it. And the reason for that is that your options in terms of fighting through it are much more limited. If you want to spam through it, then you have to get into the smoke, and you don't have any visual anchors, visual markers to know where to spam. So spamming is much more difficult. If you want to nade it, you can't be behind it as you nade it. You have to nade it and then swing. Otherwise, you're going to eat damage from your own nade. So nading it is more difficult. Overall, if they throw shorter smoke, then maybe stick around and try to fight through it. If they throw a good deep smoke like this, then you typically want to respect that and grant them some space and get over here towards Moto. One idea for you as a long player is that this position, as time goes on in the round, becomes less and less useful. And the reason for that is that as time ticks down on the clock, T's start prioritizing getting towards sites rather than fighting for space. So as a long player, you want to start prioritizing playing towards the sites rather than holding this space as the round goes on, right? So if there's 30 seconds left in the round, I'm much less worried about the T's flanking B or going through arch and running all the way this way to flank A. Of course, it could still happen and I should still account for that. But for the most part, T's are going to focus on just getting into the site, which means that they're going to go through short or they're going to pop through apps. A couple ways you can position yourself to account for this is either by playing in the cubby like this and just moving left and right, holding this angle. This is really strong because you're still holding long and you make sure that there are no lurkers or they're not splitting B, but you're also in a position where you can immediately help out with the A fight, right? They pop apps, boom, you're here. They run up short, boom, you're here. The other go-to is playing Moto. Moto is a pretty solid spot because similar to playing in the cubby, you can help out with the A fight and you can swing long. I would avoid just holding this angle. This is a very easy angle for T's to clear. I think every everybody kind of has that pre-aim down. So instead, timeout peaks, look for info here, because if you have a player towards mini pit or big pit, just chucking a flash towards long is super easy, and you can ask for that anytime. I know, you know, randoms, you're probably not trusting them to do that for you. However, it's still just not a good fight to just sit on this angle. So timeout peaks, right? Don't just be static on this. The other benefit of this is that if the T's throw a moto smoke, then you can react to this and just commit into sight off of that. That way you're closer to the sight hit and you're not being blocked by the smoke late round. In the mid round, especially when you lack numbers, you're gonna have to play Inferno very gambly. You're gonna have to predict where the T's are going to go and kind of stick to that prediction, because the rotates take so long and the sights are so hard to retake. So as this long player, you need to be confident in that prediction, because you are the rotate player, right? You can rotate towards B the easiest, or you can rotate back into A site. Get gambly with your gameplay, because if you just get stuck in this position, whether they go A or they go B, you're likely to just get smoked off and not have any impact, and then be too late to the sight hit. In terms of holding the lurk long, if you just want to play around this arch area, or you just want to focus on killing a lurk or a pop from long, there are a few angles you can play. On top of this little, what is it, a letterbox? Post box? You can stand here. This is a nice little off angle. You are very exposed to flashbangs and you are very tradable. So better angle to play if you're expecting just one player to walk through. You can also do the same right here. This angle can be quite strong as well, except it has the same problems as this one. You're out in the open, you're tradable, you're very flashable. Playing off angles and arch like this can be really strong as well, because as T's scale, they're going to be mostly worried about this moto peak, because that's typically the most common position a long player is going to fall back to. And then as they walk up and they're holding it, they're going to expose themselves to you playing this angle, because they're expecting you instead to be playing something like this or something like this. Another really great spot you can play if you're expecting the T's to walk through arch is on top of this stool and this table right here. You can't play in the corner and strafe because you get blocked by this light for some reason. So take like a step or two forward, and then you can swing out like this from this angle. You can just hold an off angle like this, which is quite good, because again, T's are going to walk up, they're expecting moto, maybe they're not looking at you, or you can just timeout peaks from this angle, and you're also kind of on an off angle because you're changing the elevation, and instead of being on the left side of library, you're way up here. Weird position to play that the T's won't expect. Now, I want to give you some examples of other things you can do other than starting towards long or going for one of these aggressive plays. Playing double short can be really strong if you have one player here holding boiler and then another player playing under balk. That way this player takes first contact for somebody swinging out mid, and then this player can swing off of that contact. Another play you can make is having one boosted up here. You just boost one player right there. Have one player boosted. This player can even play anti-flash and then peek, anti-flash, peek, right? Playing double apps setups can be extremely strong as well. If you have one player playing short, spotting middle, another player sitting here holding the boiler push, and a third player sitting right here holding the apps push on this off angle, right? If you're opping, you can sit right here and hold this angle, and have your rifler just sit on this angle. That way they hold this side, you're holding this side. Another one is just the double setup here. Have one player play right here, hold this, have another player play right here and hold this. That way you're both on off angles for T's swinging out this way. And then if a trader tries to come in and trade, then you have two people to make sure that, you know, you don't get traded. So starting double short can be really strong. Starting two people in apps can be really strong if you guys are in a decent setup. Also starting 3B, whether you're coming towards B and you're dropping your smoke molly HE and then you're leaving and going back towards A, or if you're actually helping in taking banana. The big thing is that if you're committing 3 people over towards B, you should be prioritizing taking banana control. Otherwise, why are you having 3 people go B? Are you sending 3 people to go B just to sit on site? What's the use in that, right? You could do that with 2 people. So if you have 3B, if you're starting 3B, try to go for banana control. Next, let's talk about how to play short as a CT. Short, or in NA, we call this porch or lane sometimes. If you like to take a lot of gunfights, then this is the spot for you. So let's talk about what you can do early round as a short player. At the start of round, for the most part, I would tell you to cross around this way, go through sight, and then get towards short like this. Jumping across, your timing going this way isn't that important unless you're trying to make a really aggressive play towards apps or bedroom, or you're trying to get down mid. But if you're planning on just playing short, playing porch right here, your timing isn't super important, so you could just take the safe route and go through site. Around 1:43 on the clock from back here in boiler, you can shift walk throw a molly right here, and this is going to deny the jump up for tees. See, I'm burning if I'm sitting on there. You can get aggressive behind this molly by creeping up behind it, looking towards bridge, making sure you're not getting held, and then take bedroom control. Now, if you make this play, a really strong position you can play is sitting right here. The reason for this is because you can sit here and hold apps, and you're not visible to anything from out here in mid, except for obviously the jump up if they do this jump. But sitting right here, you can hold apps like this, and then you can time out peaks towards mid. And you can come back, sit right here, hold this, and then timeout peaks. This is a really strong position that I saw Rops playing. When you're playing short, similar to how when you're playing long, you want to kind of match the positioning of your long player. So let's imagine your long player is playing towards cubby, or maybe they're playing right here close to the wall. If that's the case, then that frees you up to play an angle like this, because now you guys have a crossfire here. If you have an SMG or a pistol, playing this angle can be really strong too. However, if your long player is, let's say, opping, and they're playing back here in the corner and they're just holding a tight angle through bracket, then it's a bit more risky to play a committed position like this, because if they get smoked off, you might just be playing a 1v4 or 1v5. So instead, you can play more so for boiler, right? Hold boiler, make sure you're moving as you're holding it. You can also hold it more passively from back here and crouch on this angle, take a kill, and then get towards sight. That's fine too. However, if you're playing more aggressively and you want to swing off of your long player's contact or off of any sound towards brackets, then playing right here, spotting boiler, tucking, peeking, and then you hear noise towards mid, then you swing towards mid and you take these fights. Playing around this pillar is also pretty strong because it allows you to isolate these two angles. You do need like somewhat precise movement with your counter strafes, or else you're going to overextend and expose yourself to both. One cheeky position you can also play is by playing on top of this. Instead of jumping on top of the railing, where if you do this, you might just bonk your head on that, you just run on this ledge and then you jump and strafe around to the right, and then boom, you're right here and you're on a really nasty off angle for holding boiler. The only issue is that if tees throw like very reactable, easy flashes towards you short, then you're kind of screwed, right? Because this is a very committed position. So you have to turn it and like hope that they don't peek, or you just have to fall and get back towards sight. You can also make the jump from here to top porch or have somebody boost you right here. Playing on top porch is a very strong position because if they smoke you off short, you have full visibility over the smoke to see the tees running out long. It's also just not a very commonly pre-aimed position. However, the big downside is that you are so open to flashes, right? If the tees throw flashes out mid, you have zero cover, you just have to turn and stare at the wall. If you want to play on boost, it's best to have a teammate with you playing under you, so then they can hold the angle while you're playing anti-flash, and then if the tees flash, this player tucks and runs right and turns, and then you turn off of that flash popping, and then you get the kills, and then they can swing with you off of your contact. With this position, one thing I would avoid is playing towards the end here and holding angles like this. I think this is fine if you're expecting a T to maybe just lurk out and you just want to get that kill pretty easily. However, the problem is if there are multiple Ts here and they're getting ready to go out and somebody jiggles you on the boost, like let's say this boiler player is jiggling this corner and then they see you up here and they tuck, the knowledge that you are on top of porch is so valuable, because once they know that, then they can throw a million flashes, they pre-aim you. This is a really bad place to be if the Ts know you're here. So it's better to play towards this left side, more tucked. That way you're less likely to get spotted and you're more likely to take these fights as the Ts are already out middle. One crucial aspect of being a good short player is knowing when to not be the short player anymore and instead play towards sight. If you're playing here and your long player gets smoked off and there are 5 Ts ready to run at you short, you don't need to be a hero. Your job is to hold a site. It's not to hold this area. Your job in this area is to, yes, try to contain this and get kills and keep control of it, but that's secondary to the overall big goal of not letting the Ts take a site. The hardest place on Inferno to push, in my opinion, is this area right here. And that's because as a T, once you expose yourself within this area, you are open to a million bajillion angles, right? There's top balk right here, on the railing, in apps if the Ts don't have apps control. Somebody could be tucked behind truck right here. there's mini pit, there's big pit, there's all these off angles back here around pit, there's default right here, this spot, right? You get the point. There's so many angles that can see this area. So use that. If you think the T's are going to come A, then you as a short player should try to be fighting them in this area if you cannot reasonably hold brackets with your long player. When you fall back towards site and you think the T's are going to come through short, you want to fight them in here, which means that some different angles you can play is one right here. This is a really tricky off angle because as the T's clear sight, they are most likely swinging mini pit or big pit. And by the time they get out here, boom, now they're exposed to you right there. So on top of this box right here is really strong. You get one kill, you swing out this way, boom, there's a second. Another really strong position to play is towards back default. The reason for this is that you can just swing off of your apps or pit players contact, right? If they're top balk, if they're mini pit, if they're big pit, they take contact, boom, you swing off of that and you clean up. The other reason is that it's really easy to throw good flashbangs for yourself here, right? You can just bounce them against this roof and then swing off that. If you're a bit further back, you can left and right click and just aim to the left of the roof. Boom, swing off that. Another way you could do it is just left and right click behind you and then swing in front of this one. Short is a very flashable area because the T's don't really have cover. The closest thing they have to cover is behind the truck. So as they're funneled through this spot, if you throw a very reactable, obvious flash at them, they're forced to turn from it or just eat the flash. One thing you should avoid is playing up in this corner and just tucking and waiting. Sure, maybe sometimes they're not going to clear you, but most of the time you do this, you're just selling out your apps player slash pit player, right? If they're in pit and they're fighting and you're just sitting here, you can't really do much to help them. Sure, you can swing out this way, but what a lot of people do is just sit in this corner, right? It's not a good play. Play off of your teammate and use your numbers to create a crossfire rather than letting the T's fight your pit player and then, okay, they killed them, now they get to fight you, right? It's just not good. One way you can re-aggro into mid if you feel like, you know, there's a T holding you right here is just bouncing flashes. You bounce a flash like that, you're forcing this T to either eat it or just run away from it. So if you want to re-peek middle, that's an easy way to get some space and make the fight easier for you. Another responsibility for this short player is taking space when the T's are heavily numbered towards B. If they have 4 towards B, then you and your apps player can walk into apps together, right? They're pushing through hall, you're walking here boiler, and you guys clear this space looking for this solo lurker. If you take bedroom control in the mid round when the T's are heavily stacked towards B, this is so strong because now you can hold the rotate back towards A from bedroom. Now, if you hold this rotate and you get a kill or two, the beauty of this positioning is now you can run back through apps towards A, and if you have the timing, you can get out and play big pit or play towards side or mini pit, only side if you're, you know, not worried about crossing short. Or if the T's, like let's say you swing, you get 1 kill, the T's are running up, they're sprinting up, you can get back here towards long haul, and now you just maintain apps control. That makes this retake for you guys as CTs significantly easier if you have teammates who are rotating in from moto. One thing about holding brackets is that you and the long player can flow together, right? You don't have to be short every round. They don't have to be long every round. Maybe sometimes you're going to end up long and sometimes they're going to end up short, right? That's fine. You guys are really just focused on the common goal of holding brackets if possible, and if not, then holding A site. So if you want more aggressive plays you can make as a short player towards middle, then go to the beginning of the long player section. I list out quite a few different aggro plays you can make from brackets. The last position we need to talk about on CT side is the A anchor, which is the apps player slash pit player. As an apps player, your main job is to get info in apartments and to hold this choke point here. You are also the last line of defense for an A execute, so this is an anchor position. I have to start with this because I see it all the time. The biggest mistake I see apps players make is that they think that they need to hold apps, like control apps every single round. Get here, hold this, play right here, hold this, right? You don't need to do this. In fact, this is often the worst way you can play apps. Sure, getting aggressive into apps can be really strong, especially if you have a teammate here to do it with you. However, if you're doing this every round, you're almost like giving the T's a free pick. There are only so many places you can play in apps, so if you're consistently aggressing into apartments, it's really easy for Ts to clear you out if they're ready for you to be here. Playing up here in apps isn't the worst, but it's also just not an amazing spot to be in, because at any point you could get double peeked by a T from this side and a T from this side. So if you're playing in this area, you would rather just time out peeks rather than just holding this angle, because somebody could always be peeking from over here, right? So if you're looking for a kill, you want to really time out your peeks, where you give it quite a lot of time in between them. That way a T who peeks doesn't see you and then they start walking up. That's the moment when you want to peek. Give it a little bit more space in between peeks. However, you can also play the spot for info too. You can just jiggle this and then retreat once you see somebody, play on Balk or drop towards pit and just play off the info that you know somebody is lurking into apps. One molly that I don't think you should be defaulting, but can be good in situations, is this one in apps. I think this is best on anti-ecos when you think the Ts might do like an apps rush or an apps pop. If you throw this around 140, I might have to correct that. It will be on the screen if I do. Around 140, you want to drop this molly. That way you block the Ts if they're trying to rush apps. The other benefit is that from this position, you can hear the Ts if they're running up the stairs and running up second mid into apps. So then you can often just throw it off a reaction. Playing balcony is a great spot. It's really annoying for Ts to deal with you, and you can play it in multiple ways. One way is a more passive approach where you just line up on an angle like this. You see a little pixel gap right here. If a T walks up in apps, you can react by dropping your molly. You can stay up here if you'd like, or you can drop down and play into mini pit and play off the info that you know somebody is here close apartments. This spot also allows you to drop your smoke and instantly help with the short fight right here. That way, if your short player is retreating, you drop your smoke, boom, 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 you're getting kills here, and players in apps are going to have a really hard time trying to trade this because this is a really awkward smoke to try to navigate through. In terms of angles to play on top of Balk, playing ones where the Ts have to worry about both you and pit are the best, because if somebody is peeking here, they're most likely peeking towards pit, and if you're on top of the railing here, that is a big flick for them. And same thing on this side, right? They peek down here, and then boom, you're up here. So if you fully have short control and you're comfy with that, you can just play an angle like this, holding close, or over on this side, holding like this. Another safe option is to play towards this left side and just time out peeks. Wait, peek. Try to catch a timing where a T is walking out, they're peeking towards pit, and then boom, you swing right here. If you do have an unreliable short player, or the Ts are just getting up short quite a lot, then playing Balk can be a bit trickier because you're more tradable from Balk than you are from Big Pit. So if your teammate from short has fallen back towards site, it's typically best to drop into mini pit or into Big Pit. That way Ts can't swing you right here and isolate you, and then swing site and isolate your teammate. Of course, you can play back here like this. However, with this kind of angle, once your teammate on site tucks or dies, then again, you are very tradable. Now, once your short player rotates back into site, or if your long player rotates into site, they are able to now hold apps for you, which frees you up to play an angle like this, where you can hold this headshot angle towards short, or you can play behind truck, peek this, check this angle, and timeout swings towards short. If you have a player rotating into site to hold apps for you, this then allows you to play mini pit as well. In general, the two best positions you can play as this apps player is on top of Balk and Big Pit. Big Pit is super annoying for Ts to deal with, because if they don't have a molly, then you can just stay alive forever and be such a nuisance. And if they do have a molly and you still have your smoke, then you can use your smoke in multiple ways to stay alive and get kills. The first way is by dropping your smoke into this corner here. The beauty of this is that it's going to take out the molly, and it's going to give you angles above this barrel right here. If you jump on this barrel, you can see the crossing towards site. You can also see Ts walking out of apps right here. Another smoke you can throw is just one out to the left side here. With this smoke, sure, pit gets mollied, but playing behind this allows you to live for a really long time, because it gives you a lot of cover in a space where before you wouldn't have had any cover. So you can swing out towards here and hold apps, you can get out towards mini pit, or you can just wait behind the smoke, let this molly fade, and then get back into Big Pit after that molly's gone. From Big Pit, think about earlier how we talked about this space, super scary for Ts to push. So in Big Pit, you typically don't want to be taking this 1v3, 1v4 here in short. Sure, if the kill is there, then get it, but you want to prioritize playing the crossfires in this space. One angle you can hold to do that is just by crouching right here in the middle of pit and holding this angle. That way, as a T is scaling here and they're pushing into site, boom, now they're exposing their back to you, and there's really no world where a T swings this and they're holding you instead of holding anything in sight. Something else you can do is crouch right here on the barrel, hold the app's walkout, and then once your sight player takes contact or moto, then you uncrouch and you can take these fights right here in this area. Now, if you're really confident in your short player just maintaining short space, that allows you to play weird off angles like this one, just sitting under Bauk. That way, if a T is walking out, right, they're gonna walk out and they're gonna clear sight because they're exposing themselves to sight. They might walk out this way and then boom, your head is right there, and that's just a free kill for you. If you're getting wrapped from arch, then two places you can play is one right here. This allows you to see through this gap and see any T's crossing in this area. You can also play on top of this barrel right here, and this gives you some cover and a nifty little headshot angle for you to play on. Obviously, Graveyard is now closed to the public. It is an even worse spot to sit in. Sure, you can sit in it. I would only do this if you're expecting like one T to walk out. If you're like 4v1 and you just want to play an annoying off angle, then just sitting on these stairs and doing left-right strafes, that's fine. However, in like 5v5, 4v4, just avoid this almost entirely. Positioning wise, one thing to keep in mind as an apps player is typically you want to stick towards the left side of this crossfire. That way, when your short player rotates in, they can take the quick rotate into sight, or when your long player rotates in, they get into sight, and then you're almost always guaranteed a horizontal crossfire in this zone, right? One player's sight, maybe your mini pit, maybe your top Bauk, maybe your pit. That way, when T's are pushing, they always have like a very wide angled crossfire that they have to deal with. If you guys are doubled into sight, sometimes that can work because T's still have to worry about these areas. However, for the most part, focus on playing on this left side. So, big picture as the apps player, play closer early, get the info. You don't have to play 4 apps control every round, and if you do, then have your short player come with you or your long player come with you, or just do it purposefully. Don't do it by default, right? Play apps early, give some space after you get the info, and then play towards Bauk. From Bauk, you can also play for info or play for kills by timing out peaks. And later into the round, when you're expecting and execute the T's to try to get into sight, that's when playing Big Pit is super, super good because it provides you so many crossfires and it makes it really hard for T's to push this area. There you go. That's CT side Inferno. Let's move on to T side and we'll start with how to take banana. More often than not, playing banana as a T is going to be the most impactful place that you can be in a pub. If the CTs are fighting for banana, then you have plenty of opportunities to get kills and make space. And if they're not fighting for banana, then just taking the space is so powerful. But let's start with some different options that you can do to get into banana and take some space at the beginning of the round. The first thing you have to consider is your spawn. Now, I don't have the spawns in here on this map, but I can show a picture of them. The 2 spawns at the ends are the best spawns for banana, and a big part of this is because you don't get body blocked. The Inferno spawns are all very close to each other. There isn't a huge difference between them, but if you have a bad spawn, then you're going to get super body blocked and your timing is going to be terrible. So let's talk about if you have a decent spawn, what can you do? Well, the first option is to molly car and then immediately jump into broom. The 2 ways you can molly car is one, the one I just showed where you aim at the top of the car plank wood, I don't know. You aim at the top of that, left click, and you jump into broom. The other way is that if you scale further on the left, and then you aim in between these 2 windows, then you just left click as you run. Overall, I would say you should be throwing this one more than you throw the one aiming at the car, because the one aiming at the car, sometimes it won't plume or spread all the way behind car. It could leave a little gap. This one's fine, but mollies are kind of inconsistent. So I would just throw this one for the most part. Broom is a very strong spot because, like I said on CT side, a lot of people in pugs don't know how to throw util towards broom. Typically, they're going to throw util towards barrels because barrels is a very easy place to throw util at. Now, the downside of playing broom is that it's a worse place to peek from than barrels is. The other fact is that if CTs are pushing you banana, they're running down. This is a really bad spot to hold from because if somebody walks up on you, they're going to see you before you see them just because of this angle. You're very close to the wall and the left side of your body is going to stick out this way. And so if I'm sitting here and a CT shift walks down here, they'll see me before I see them. So if you think the CTs are pushing you, you should be swinging into them. You shouldn't be allowing them to swing into you because it's a bad fight from Broom. So what you can do if you recognize that the CTs don't know how to throw util towards Broom is jump Broom early, let them throw util towards barrels, and then after they throw this util, cross towards barrels. That way you dodge the early util barrels, but then once your molly is gone, then you're in a position where it's easier to take fights. The second option is, of course, jumping straight into barrels. Your timing here is totally fine as long as you have a decent spawn. Again, the downside is you might just get util dumped because it's very easy to throw util in here. However, you do have many more options in terms of how you can play this and how you can fight. You can isolate half wall, you can isolate car, and if you want to take a peek towards corner, you can jump on these barrels. A cool thing about these barrels is that if you crouch and jump onto this first one, you don't need to jump again. You just slide up onto the top ones, uncrouch, and then bang, you have a headshot angle towards corner. Another option is to get straight up towards half wall. You just scale like this along this right side, and then you can play right here. Now, if the CTs are mollying close and they're throwing a lot of anti-rush util, then that option is not as good because you're going to be eating that util. However, if the CTs are pretty light on util or they're not really fighting too heavily for a banana, then just instantly closing space at the beginning of the round and having the ability to swing off of any sound or any contact here from half wall can be really strong. Your fourth option in terms of getting into banana is an instant corner peek. So what you can do here is molly car, get up, gun out, scale on this right side, and then instantly peek corner right here. The issue for CTs is that with their tiny little mollies, I mean, I have a T molly, so I'm gonna throw it a bit shallow, is that even if they throw a close molly like this, it always leaves a gap back here behind barrels for you to peek from. So you can catch a lot of CTs over trusting their molly right here, and they might be HE out, they might just not be ready for the fight, and you can get a pretty free early kill like that. You'll notice with all these options, I'm always throwing something at car, whether it be a molly or HEs can be quite good too. A singular HE is fine. However, if you have somebody coming banana with you, then double HE in car is really good because if they peek, then they might just die to the HEs or it does significantly more damage. Typically, you should just throw a molly. That's the safest and best option, and it conditions CTs into expecting it, which makes them less aggressive. Another option for you for util towards car early is just a deep smoke at car. You can throw it just like how you threw the molly, and this smoke from a CT perspective is super freaking annoying because now they can't get info. You guys could be popping through this at any point, and a big benefit to this is that now you get to save your molly, which means that if you have a teammate come banana with you, then once the smoke is starting to fade, you can molly sandbag, maybe they molly corner, and then bang, with these double mollies, where the hell are the CTs going to play? They're stuck either behind default, half wall, or maybe on top of sandbag or in front of it. It really limits the positioning for the CTs. But of course, the downside to this is that CTs could just nade it and then swing. They could flash through it and pop through it towards you, just like how you can to them. They can boost over half wall, right? So it's not like perfect, but it's an option. So if you've been throwing a car molly consistently and you believe the CTs are going to respect that and you want to make an aggressive play, what you can do is instantly run up, throw this smoke, throw half wall flash, boom, and then you're swinging car immediately. This can be a really great way to get an early pick towards a corner player because they're just not expecting this kind of pace after 6 rounds of you mollying car. Now, if you want to take a more passive approach to banana, and this is often good if the CTs aren't smoking bottom banana, right? If the CTs are smoking this and they're throwing decent util and you consistently play behind the smoke, banana is a really hard area to retake, right? So you typically don't want to just respect the smoke if they're throwing it. You want to get ahead of it and fight for banana. However, if they're not throwing that, then playing towards bottom banana early is totally fine. And what you can do from here, I saw Amelia on Lin Vision throw this util set. You can just get around this corner, aim up here, left click your molly, and then left click your HE. Boom, boom. If the CTs are going for any sort of aggressive play, they're going to get nuked by that util. So you can come here, throw that set, and you have the time to throw it, I promise you. Then you can tuck and swing off of any aggression. And if they're not doing anything, okay, bang, now you can get into banana just fine. If you're stuck here bottom banana and you're worried that the CTs are peeking car or running down banana, throwing left and right click flashes into this tree is really effective because from a CT perspective, it's really hard to see this flash coming, right? They only see it at the very end because this tree gives it so much coverage. If you want to save both your smoke and your molly molly and your HE. One flash you can throw to get the CTs away from corner or scared of peeking you is while you're running up banana, just throw a flash towards the right side of this barrel. What this does is any CT running up going to peek, it's going to flash them right in their face, and it's much less reactable than a flash that bounces against this wall and they have plenty of time to see it and then turn it. Something you always need to be aware of when you're going towards banana or you're in banana early is that you need to count utility. If the CTs throw 3 HEs, that is crucial big information that you need to tell your team, because that means 3 people are B. So your team can speed up A and they can play maybe a 4v2 towards A early. Really pay attention to the util towards B. One molly that can be really effective against ecos, right? You're expecting the CTs to have shotguns, SMGs, they're going to play close, is instead of mollying car, you're going to molly half wall and just a bit to the right. So you turn the corner, you aim up high, and then this molly is going to land next to half wall and clear out all this space. It might leave a gap if they run through it and burn through it towards car or towards half wall, but I'm okay with that because I'm fine taking this fight against somebody with, you know, a bad buy. However, I want to clear out this spot, this spot, this spot, right? I don't want to take those close range fights. So that molly can be super helpful in clearing out those kind of awkward fights that you don't want to be taking. Okay, now let's move on to taking car, right? We've taken banana early, we've denied the car peek. Now the CTs, we're expecting them to maybe be corner and maybe be sandbag, and we want to break this setup and take this space. Similar to how on CT, when we're peeking banana, we want to take away one of the 2 options that the Ts can be playing, right? Either they could be barrels or they could be broom. We want to molly one or double nade one, so then we can focus on the other. The same concept applies over here towards car. We want to block one of these, so then we can focus on the other. Molly sandbag, peek corner. Molly corner, peek sandbag. That way we can isolate one of these 2 players. From barrels, you can throw all of this util. You can molly sandbag, just aiming up high and hitting it off the corner of this building. If you don't throw this molly deep enough, it's going to leave a gap back here that CTs can play in. So you always want to throw this on the far right side of this building. That way it's going to bounce and land deep. It's always going to cover this spot, never doesn't cover that spot, and it's going to get out into that corner and flush anybody out of sandbags. Alternatively, with an HE, you can aim further left, because if you're gambling that the CT is playing in this corner, the spot close, then you want it to land closer to them rather than out here. From this spot too, you can molly and nade corner. You just crouch, aim at the top of this, and just crouch walk. That's my favorite way to do it. It feels kind of smooth every time. And then with the HE, you can adjust this. So if you crouch walk, you're going to HE the tight close angle, boom, right here. And instead, if you just give it a little step, you're going to HE the deep angle. Right, so you kind of have to mentally gamble. Do you think they're going to be playing deep back here, or are they going to be playing tight right here? Something to keep in mind is that if you are a lone banana and you want to take car, it's a pretty tall order if the CTs are playing for car, because you're likely playing a 2v1 and you likely already burnt some util on denying the car peek, taking banana, right? So it's not necessarily your job. If you're a lone banana, you can just maintain this space for as long as you can until maybe a teammate comes with you and now you guys can take car. It's not your job to 1v2 take car fully alone. So if you have a teammate with you, or somehow you've saved your util, throwing your molly towards car, maybe an HE towards corner, peeking, make sure they're not peeking you, and then a flash towards half wall, boom, and you're swinging, and now they are flushed out of sandbag, they have to be corner, you peek that, boom, you're good, and then you can move on and peek this. One thing to be cautious of, this doesn't matter as much if you fully mollied off sandbag, don't be super lazy with jumping across this. A lot of CTs will play for this angle and for this jump like this, and you're just an absolute free kill there. So if you're taking car and you're worried about somebody playing sandbag, instead of jumping across here, scale this way so you can peek corner, and then move on to sandbag once you're past car. That way you don't have to jump into their crossing. With banana on T side, similar to how it is on CT side, you have to be very cognizant of how the CTs have been approaching this space, right? Are they dumping util early, or are they just playing towards site? Because if the CTs are granting you this space for free and you recognize that, then you can take the space for free and save a lot of your util. But if they're fighting for it very heavily and they're using a lot of util to take it, then just denying car, letting them burn their util, and then taking car after they burnt their util early clearly is better for you. Once you've taken car, one thing you have to be very cautious of is the coffin flash, right? I showed it on CT. It is a very common play on Inferno because it's just so darn good. You have to be aware of this. So once you take this space, you know, don't just linger in this area for no reason. Either tuck into this corner and play anti and have a teammate hold it, or just play half wall alone, timeout peaks, wait for that flash. Just expect it. A cheeky spot you can play to avoid that flash if your opponents are playing it is up here on half wall. Have somebody boost you or jump from car. Boosting is better because then the CTs don't hear it. When you play the spot, if the CTs throw this flash, doesn't blind you at all, not even half blind, because this thing in your face just blocks it fully. So it's a pretty nifty spot. One thing you can do if you're just lurking here is aim at the top of the one right here in the 1810 and just a left click jump throw. This is an HE 4CT that is so strong, because if you take car, very high chance that there's a CT playing here just jiggling this with a smoke out, and that could just be a free 50 damage for you. So going back to my point before about recognizing how CTs are playing banana, if the CTs are playing off of banana and you are expending a lot of util to take it, then you might not have an HE to throw. But if the CTs are playing off of banana and you recognize that, you see that, and you're able to save your util, then you can have a ton of impact with util like this, where now you're actually using it on a spot where the CTs are going to be playing. Something that happens in pugs all the freaking time is that you guys as Ts take car very easily, and then you just stand here, right? We're just here in the space, maybe we're smoked off, just hanging out, right? From a macro perspective, it is awesome that we have car, right? That's great. This is a very important part of the map. However, we need more map space, because if we take car and we have 0 map space elsewhere, CTs know we're gonna go, right? We're gonna go B. So if you take car for free and you see like, oh shit, there's like 3 other people here and we're not doing anything, just immediately double back and go take space elsewhere. There's no reason to sit here with a bunch of numbers unless we're actually going to do something towards B. And if that's happening repeatedly, then stop going banana. Let your teammates go take banana for free, since the CTs aren't really playing it, and you go take other space because you're not needed there. You're not useful. Now let's go back to the example of you took car and you're fully alone. The rest of your teammates are over towards A, they're doing their thing. You're here, maybe you're smoked off, maybe you're not. What can you do? Well, one thing is to try to get smoked off. If the CTs haven't used a smoke yet and your car, that means they still probably have 2 smokes towards B. And the longer they hold these smokes, the better it is for them, the better odds they're able to smoke you off if you guys want to execute B. So trying to force a smoke out of the CTs is really important. And you can do that a couple ways. One is just flashing the CT player off, taking a peek, and just applying pressure like this, and then maybe they're just going to get scared, smoke off B, and then fall back. The other way is to throw your own CT smoke. You can throw it from here, of course, jiggle and then throw it, or you can throw a lineup. You just get into this corner right here, and then you aim at this window that's kind of peeking through. Bottom right of the pipe, left and right click, W jump throw. I know it seems like a lot, but this is honestly the best CT smoke you can learn. It's the closest to car, so you're not way back here and you're not way back here. Here, you're also exposed to corner. This one bounces and lands on top of the boost as well. That's why it's such a specific lineup. It's amazing. Learn it. Do it. Throwing that CT smoke as a lurk then can often force a smoke out of the CT player here, because they don't want to just be useless here behind the smoke in case the Ts are actually coming towards B. So apply pressure, get smokes out of CTs, get mollies out of CTs. It's huge. If they smoke you off here, one thing you can do too is look for the first orange fight, because from this angle, sometimes you'll see a cheeky CT who's curious about a fight here, and that's often a very winnable and easy fight for an AK. One last thing about banana before we jump into how to execute B is that if you guys get up banana, and let's say you have 2 or 3 people running up with you, you get the first kill, don't be afraid to just chase the second, even if they smoke you off. And then even if you double die and then get the trade on this last player, having B site is just so strong if you take the site, because Inferno, the sites are so hard to retake, right? So take that opportunity, even if it's kind of risky. What'll happen a lot too is that first CT player will die, the second CT player will come back, and they'll drop a smoke or drop a molly and reveal their position, right? You know they're CT, they just threw a piece of util from there. So even if you have to jump through the smoke, jumping through the smoke with 2 or 3 people, super worth it, because if you get that last kill towards B, that's likely just the round is over. So don't be afraid to get really aggressive off of that very first pick towards B. I said we'd talk about how to execute B next, but first we should talk about how to rush B. The first step of rushing B is denying this close molly, right? So we're gonna throw this smoke that we showed before. This lets us up, and we don't have to worry about ticking through that molly half wall. If you're worried about the CT's peeking car, you don't want to molly car, because a car molly is going to block you off from actually rushing B. So instead, if you want to deny the car peek, you think the CTs might be aggressive, then double or triple nading car as you run up is going to be better. The one molly you do want to be throwing is a sandbag molly. If you're not throwing this molly, it could make the rush much more difficult, because a sandbag player might just farm you as you're pushing through your own smoke. Don't molly car, don't molly corner. Instead, if you're this 3rd or 4th player in the pack, mollying towards sandbag is really strong. Bang, you flush them out, and then boom, you're able to rush towards B. If you have the worst spawn, then you can throw a CT smoke from this barrel. You just get into the corner. At this antenna, you aim in the first gap, just in the middle here, and then you shift walk a step or 2, and then you left click jump throw the smoke. It's going to bounce, and land right in CT, and this will be plumed by the time your team is up on B. The only problem is obviously it doesn't smoke off the boost, but if you're rushing B, it's unlikely you're going to be stopping to throw a lineup to smoke that off anyways. In terms of flashbangs, half wall flashes are always your best friend on a B rush. I threw that too early. Higher, boom, and then you guys are swinging. If you are 3rd or 4th in the pack, then throwing a deep flash like this as you run up is really strong too, because then any CT running back might get blinded by this, or if they're already here in CT, this is going to blind them or at least force them off the angle, which at this point you guys are already flooding this way. So then when they re-peek, boom, you guys are already out here rather than just allowing the CT to hold this angle. Something you probably didn't know is that you can molly coffin as you rush B. If you run along this left wall and then aim just to the left of this plant at the wall, this is going to molly off coffin. How useful is this? Probably not that useful, to be honest. But I don't know, it's kind of cool. I wanted to show you. Okay, so there are some loose tips on how to rush B. Let's finally talk about how to execute B. B site is a really hard site to hold if the T's throw a pretty decent execute and the CTs don't have a smoke to block it. The 3 most common positions you want to be throwing util at is CT, coffin, and new box, right? Those are the 3 strongest positions to play B from. So let's show you some util for all 3 of those. For CT, I showed it a bit before, but we'll do it again. Get into this corner, aim up here. You see this sliver of a window. You aim at the bottom right of the pipe that goes into that window, and then you left and right click W jump throw. I know it seems like a lot, but I promise you, left and right click W jump throws are 100% consistent, just like left click jump throws. So boom, there you go. It blocks off the boost and you are chilling. One great thing about throwing your CT smoke from the spot is that if you have a teammate to drop you a smoke, then you can aim towards the left of this wood wall, and you're just going to shift walk, left click jump throw. And this is a very easy coffin smoke lineup that pops pretty quickly, and it's going to cover this spot too, so the CTs can't look over this area. Alternatively, if you have a teammate to boost you up here on half wall, or you make the jump, my goodness, or if you make the jump, then you can throw a really nice coffin util set from up here, and I absolutely love this one. You just get right here into this corner. With your smoke, you're going to aim in between this bit and this bit. So just up top right here, left click throw. With your molly, you aim at the O right here in original, and you left click jump throw. This smokes deep coffin, and then molly's close coffin. So a CT playing here is either forced out into the open or back behind the smoke. And the beauty of this is that once this molly's gone, if the CT goes behind the smoke, then you guys have space here to then take the space, right? You can fight them, and this is a much better situation to take coffin in than if you're smoked off right here, right? Because CTs have plenty of space behind this kind of smoke to hold on to the space. So it sets you up for the post plant, where now, because of this deep smoke, you can play behind it, it fades, boom, you're swinging them, and you can take church. From this spot too, you can throw some of my favorite flashes for B, which are the pillar flashes. You just aim in between the top of this ladder and the scaffolding right here in the middle, and left click throw. And you can throw these as much as you want because it won't blind your team as they scale because it pops right behind pillar. So anybody here, new box, boom, they're blind. If they're on this right side, they won't get blind. Towards dark, they're gonna get full blinded by these. Towards coffin, they get blinded by these too. I can show you. They're peeking this, bang, they get blinded. I think if they're up here playing on this angle, then they don't get blinded, but I think that's less of a concern because never mind, they do get blinded. In terms of an earlier flash, you can throw the God Flash. You just sit in this corner with the barrels and you aim at the top left corner of car or these barrels, and you just left click jump throw. This flash is going to pop right here at the corner. If your team is out, they get blinded by it, but it's a really good flash to throw as the very first flash for an execute because it blinds literally everything. After you throw this God Flash, you can follow it up with a flash below this finger down to the ground and you W jump throw. This flash pops behind your teammates, and from here, if they're scaling, it's not going to blind them because it pops above the balcony. However, any CT out here in the open, fighting, or out here in grill, or right here in first orange if they're swinging, it's going to blind any CT who's out in the open. 2 mollies you should know for B, the new box molly along with the oranges molly. You can throw both from one spot. You just get into this corner at car. For the new box molly, you're going to aim at this bit of the drain pipe, top left of it, and left click throw. This one is very consistent. It's going to plume out and flush anybody out of new box. For the oranges molly, it's the exact same spot. You aim at this pipe where it meets this bit of the drain pipe that sticks out, and you just left click throw in the middle of that. This lands on second orange and is going to cover second, first, and top of second. Sometimes it plumes out here, you heard me tick, but it doesn't consistently catch first oranges. When thrown in tandem, these mollies cover so much space and make it so awkward for any CT playing on this side of the site. From this spot, you can do a lot because if you get somebody to drop you that molly, you can throw both of these, right? Your new box molly, oranges molly, and if you aim in between the light bulb and the top of this, just right here, and left click throw, these flashes are really nice because they pop behind first orange and blind anybody coffin, blind anybody pillar, back here towards new box. These are really nice flashes you can throw from that very same spot. In terms of entering and actually taking the site, one thing you can do if CT is smoked is as you get into this entry, you just throw a flash into CT and then boom, you're swinging out from here. That way, if there's a player in CT and they want to spam this, they get full blinded, their spam's going to be worse. Or if they're getting ready to swing through the smoke, they get full blinded by that. If anybody's back here towards site, this flash can definitely blind them as well. In terms of pathing, you really have to pay attention to, do we have a coffin smoke or anything blocking coffin? Because if we don't, then our pathing has to be a bit more passive. Typically, if we don't have anything to block coffin, then crossing towards grave and looking for these fights towards new box, jumping up, clearing out this space, and then swinging coffin from here is going to be your best bet. Because if you immediately scale up towards site, you're just exposing yourself to this gross crossfire that's really hard to overcome. However, if we have, of course, CT smoked, we always need CT smoked, and we have coffin smoked, so that one's going to be bad, but you get the point, then you can start pathing straight up on site like this, or out this way like this, because you don't have to be as concerned about the crossfires between coffin, new box, second orange, etc. As the third or fourth player getting into the site, jumping on top of oranges can be really strong because it's a very easy place to trade your teammates from, right? If somebody swings this side of new box, boom, you're there. Somebody swings coffin, boom, you're there. One thing to be aware of as that third or fourth player going in on these executes is holding for the CT swing or the coffin swing. If your team is scaling up and coffin isn't smoked, then just playing back here and holding for this swing rather than joining your teammates up this way. The reason for that is that if you join your teammates up here and we don't have anybody holding coffin, then, right, this player could take contact, coffin player swings out, and we're all in a bunch, and that's just not good. So you want to hold coffin, that way as your teammates scale, if somebody swings from coffin, you can just get that trade because this player is likely focused on your teammates who are entering. But once your teammates entry enough, then it's time for you to get up and take some space with them, right? If they've already swung coffin, then at that point, now you're just kind of useless here. Next, let's talk about how to play ramp as a T. Ramp is typically the opper's position. It's more of a passive role where you can be supporting your teammates and then playing for the end round, the end game. It's pretty tricky to have a ton of impact as an opper on T-side Inferno. You'll see pro players just rifle instead of op on this map on T-side, just because it's a very narrow, laney, close angle map. So if you're playing against a pretty passive CT team or a team that's just not giving you any picks when you're opping, then rifling is going to be your answer. However, if you're playing a pretty aggressive CT team or they're just offering picks early, then opping is great. If you have a teammate who's already playing ramp, don't play ramp. This is the most useless position to be in if there's already people here. That's like the scourge of T-side Inferno on Pugs, is having 3 people just sit here for no reason, not doing anything, not taking space. It's boring, it's dumb. If other people are doing this, then you should just go take space elsewhere. However, when you do get to play ramp, let's talk about some things you can do. In terms of opping towards ramp, I prefer playing the headshot angle if I'm thinking that the CT is going to actually peek me. However, if I'm expecting them to cross, then getting up here and playing this angle is really good because I see much more of mid, so my reaction to them crossing is going to be faster. However, this is somewhat dependent on me having a good spawn and the CT maybe having one of the less good spawns to cross. One thing you can do is that if the CTs aren't throwing a bottom banana smoke, then just posting on car is super good, because then your B player or anybody going into B, they don't even need to bother with mollying car or throwing any util towards car, because if the CTs peak, then you should get that kill. So no bottom B smoke, just hold car for your team. Tell them, hey, don't throw util car, I'm just gonna hold it. Another way you can support your B players is by jumping onto this corner, and around 147, you aim at the top right of the sign and you just left click jump throw. This is the point at which CTs could be running down banana and swinging here. Boom, now they're blinded and you're helping your B players get those kills and take some space. Another piece of util that is really good to know is the top mid lurk smoke. As you come out of spawn, you just get into this corner and you aim at the top of this window right here. You just left click jump throw. This smoke is going to land top mid and make middle a very uncomfortable place to be for the CTs, because now they're isolated, right? If there's one long, one short, they can't help each other. And it's very scary because there could be 5 Ts sitting in the smoke ready to pop out, right? Denies a bunch of info and applies a lot of pressure. Once you're up in this area, one thing you can do is nade either side and then peek that side behind the smoke, and this won't expose you to long, right? So if you're wanting to peek long, you can throw your HE like this, and then boom, you're peeking long, and you're not exposed to short. In terms of getting out into middle, just be aware of what the CTs have been throwing bottom mid, right? You don't want to swing middle and just catch a huge grenade in your face. The other thing is throwing a flash straight up middle like this is really good, because if a CT opper is peeking ramp, boom, they're swinging out here, they're posted on this, and then all of a sudden there's a flash in their face and they have to get off the angle. So once you're out mid, jumping into Mexi is really good. This is a great spot to hold middle from and just make sure that the CTs aren't peeking mid or looking for info here. If you get blinded, you just crouch, right? It's that easy. Be cautious of getting stuck in this corner, because even if you're right here, the CT towards long can see your shoulder. It's just a really awkward spot to be in. As time goes on, you are less and less useful playing ramp, because at that point, maybe your team has taken banana, they're probably already into apps and scaled up close mid, and the CTs are much less likely to peek into you or make an aggressive play, so you're just kind of useless here. Instead, get into banana with your teammate and maybe go look for a pick with them towards B, especially if you're opping. Then as you op, contacting CT and just posting on this angle is really good, because if a CT peeks it, right, they're probably jiggling with the smoke, bang, you get that pick, you guys can just accelerate and go try to find the second B player. If your team is setting up to go towards A, you can throw some really good util from this spot right here. Of course, you just have to be confident that you're not going to get peeked from top mid as you're throwing this util. To smoke off the library, you just aim at this part of the antenna, the big chunky section, and left click jump throw. To smoke off arch, you look up here at the pipe, and this part that sticks out that's near the wires, you just left click jump throw there. And then you can smoke moto by crouching and aiming below this light bulb and a left click jump throwing again. Boom, now we have a library smoke, we have an arch smoke, and we have a moto smoke. So overall, play ramp early, support your B players, try to take some mid space, but in the mid round, avoid being ramp. It's boring, it's not super helpful. Get towards the site and start looking for picks. Alrighty, next let's talk about the boiler player. The boiler player refers to the rifler who's running up second mid at the beginning of the round and either jumping into apps and clearing boiler and playing towards boiler, or getting up second mid and then playing towards brackets right here. If you're not playing towards B, then this is going to be the most impactful position you can play. Typically, the apps player is just clearing apps, and often they don't really have to take that many fights to clear apps. The boiler player gets the option to fight middle early and maybe look for a pick here at the beginning of the round, or to jump into apps and play towards here, which is another position where you're going to see a lot of action. So running up second mid, you or the apps player on buy rounds should be defaulting a molly towards bedroom. All you have to do to throw this molly is run up along the left side of this bridge. You aim where these stairs meet the ground just below the doorway. So right here, and then right after you pass the end of the bridge, you left click jump throw. This molly gets sent super deep. It stops any CT aggression into apps, and that way you don't get peeked from bedroom as you're running up. After you throw that molly, if you're worried about mid aggression, right, you don't have a player who's out mexy or out mid, maybe the CTs have been really aggressive, then you can throw a flash like this just against this wall as you run up, boom, and then you swing off of that to blind any CT who's making an aggro play right here. Now, once you're up in this area, you kind of have a decision to make. Do you want to fight towards bracket early, or do you want to instantly get into boiler and take this space with your apps player? Well, it depends on the info you have. If the CTs have instantly blocked middle with a smoke, then just jump into boiler, because what good are you going to do just sitting behind the smoke, right? However, if you know that the CTs are being aggressive towards middle early, maybe there's an opper peeking here, or somebody's fighting towards ramp right here, then you instantly peeking off that contact and taking these fights can be super strong. Another way you can peek this is by jumping on top of this. This allows you to peek this long angle just from a different elevation. So if there's an opper holding this, then boom, you're peeking from up here rather than down here. If you do suspect that an opper's holding that angle and you want to take a more passive approach, all you have to do is just bounce a flash against bracket, and this is going to force any opper who's playing on this angle to just run away. So if the opportunity's there, if the picks are there, then look for the pick middle. If not, then default into boiler. Once you're up here, you can shift walk along this, and then you can peek this angle from on top of the railing just to give you a little bit of an off angle, right? Maybe they're holding this from right here, and then bang, you peek up here. Once you're up here in bedroom, you have to consider where your apps player is, right? Or do you even have somebody lurking into apps? If nobody is going into hallway and going up these stairs like this, then being in bedroom is a little spooky because you have this crossfire, right? There could be a CT standing right here, and there could be one right here in boiler. So if that's the case, then you want to take this really cautiously and jiggle these angles and just see if you spot anybody being aggressive. That way you're not just wide swinging into one angle while somebody's just standing right behind you and you give them a free kill. However, if you do have somebody going in towards apps, then that allows you to just full focus on this boiler fight, which you can split up into two angles, right? You can peek this one right here, boom, see if anybody's tight on this, and then you can back up and then wide swing this one in the corner, right? So peek, boom, and then wide swing this. One really good thing you can do after you clear these angles is walk back this way with your apps player, and then you two can double peek this angle. That way, if somebody is holding this or they're on this right side, you guys are guaranteed a trade at the bare minimum in this situation. While walking down these stairs towards boiler, avoid walking on this side, because if you walk on this side, you're exposing yourself to all these angles in middle, and you're having to slide against a wall and peek this diagonally. It's really awkward. So instead, walk along this right side, get down here, and then peek like this. That way you're not sliding against the wall, and you can do actual good horizontal peaks, right? Now from boiler, you can apply a lot of pressure mid. You can always throw a smoke towards long like this. You can't throw one of those good ones that I showed on CT that lands really deep, but you can throw a more shallow one. You can also molly porch just by banking your molly against this doorway. That way it mollies out under the porch, it mollies close, and it gets this corner. But no molly is going to molly out the entire area that can hold boiler. So what you can do is throw this molly, and then after it lands and it plumes out a little bit, then peek this angle. Because if you do that, you're going to hear if anybody ticks from this molly, they run away, and then you peek into them as they're trying to escape. you also allow there to be a little bit of time where you throw that molly and you realize, hey, okay, nobody's playing under porch. Maybe somebody's just holding me tight on this angle. Boom, you peek that. And now it's just an easier fight because you have to think less about other angles. If you are worried about somebody just holding you on this on angle, or maybe there be an opper just posted right here, you can left click flashes just low against this door frame and then peek with these. These are obviously really reactable and out in the open, but it forces the CT to get off of the angle or to just get super blinded by it. Now, similar to Banana, we talked about taking car, and if you don't have the manpower, you don't have the numbers to take car, then it's not your responsibility to solo take car. The same thing goes with this boiler player. You might find yourself in this position at a minute 30, right? There's a lot of time left in the round, and the CTs have smoked mid. In this situation, it's not reasonable for you alone to get out and take mid. You can apply some pressure. Maybe you can look for the pick, jiggle this a little bit and then swing it. Look for somebody walking up long, but it's not your job to take middle. The point at which you want to take middle is when you get more numbers towards mid so that you guys can either, throw long smoke through the smoke, or the CTs are already out of their smokes and you can take middle with your teammates from this area. Boom, they swing out mid, you're swinging out boiler, and you're good. Don't feel like you have to solo take middle from boiler. As this boiler player or second mid, when you find yourself going second mid, don't get into the habit of just sitting bridge every single round. This is boring, slow. It works against really aggressive CTs, but you should do this more so as a reaction to recognizing, hey, these CTs have been really aggressive and pushing into bedroom a lot. You shouldn't be defaulting starting every round doing this. You're just giving a ton of space to the CTs and you're leaving so much impact on the table. It's boring. Stop doing this every round. So that's how you play boiler. Nothing too crazy. Often it's a position that really strives in the mid round when the CTs are out of their smokes and you can actually take middle. Let's move on to the hallway player / the apps Lurk. Same thing with the boiler player. You always want to start the round with a molly towards bedroom just so that you don't get peeked as you're running up second mid. I talked through the lineup at the beginning of the boiler player section, so if you want a better explanation, go there, but that's it. Very easy. Typically, you want to avoid going through the door and playing apps like this. The reason for this is that, yes, this is a very good angle to hold apartments from. However, it forces you to walk this entire way holding W at this angle that a CT might just peek at any moment. So if you really think that a CT is going to walk through apartments, then playing back here and holding it like this is totally fine. However, if you're wanting to get into apartments, I would avoid playing in there and instead run up this way and get into hallway like this. You can scale this way. If you're worried about them pushing, tucking into this corner is quite a tricky little off angle for this player because as they get out, they have to clear this angle and then boom, they're exposed to you, or maybe they just swing past you and swing second mid and then bang, you're in that corner. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna walk up this way. Let's pretend that you don't want to stop and hold it. You walk up this way, you pause, pre-aim, boom, you're peeking, and then you're scaling and you're throwing in little crouch walks as you scale. The big reason for this is that as this app's Lurk, typically you're alone. And when you're alone clearing a space, you really want to prioritize your ability to win that 50-50 fight. That 1v1 that you might be presented by an aggressive CT. There's no reason to be sloppy and shift walk peek all these angles and not think about your crosshair placement because you're alone. Nobody's here to trade you. Be meticulous. Be meticulous in these clears. There's no reason to take this too fast unless you're actually like rushing apps or you're purposefully taking it really fast. Just take it slow. Look at these angles, really slow down, and don't rush yourself for no reason. Now, once you've cleared these close angles, the big scary part of apps is getting into this area and being open to boiler. That's part of the reason why it's really good to have a teammate defaulting into bedroom every round and clearing boiler for you. However, if you're playing with randoms, maybe they're not coming, you have no clue what they're doing. If nobody jumps into bedroom, then you want to avoid being on this angle and peeking this while being just fully exposed to boiler with no util down. So if nobody's helping you and you want to peek this angle without having to worry about boiler, just molly it. And all you have to do to molly is just aim at the top of the top stair like that, and then bang, that's going to land right in boiler. And after you throw that, just make sure that nobody runs up and pushes into you off of that landing. So throw it, give it a second, hold this, make sure nobody's running up, and then you can walk up and then come up and boom, peak hallway. One thing to note, if you're really worried about somebody playing in this corner is actually a really rough spot to sit in, because if you walk up, you'll be able to see this player before they're able to see you. So on low buy rounds, we're expecting CTs to have pistols. You can just walk up like this, look at this angle, and you'll be able to see them if they're in this corner. In general, against low buys, avoiding apps is a pretty good idea, because a lot of the fights in apps are very close range, and CTs love to go heavy into apps on low buys. So if you want to play just more passive on those kind of rounds, where maybe this is the kind of round that you want to play bridge, that's totally fine, right? Another idea is to play this angle if they're on a low buy. Just make sure they don't push. Boom, you punish that push and you're chilling. On a low buy, just don't run into apps with your AK and just send it and give them a free AK at the beginning of the round. Now, once you've peaked this and you're chilling here, you can scale into apps. And there's a couple ways to scale apps. One, you can walk along this left side and then peek out, hold, walk along left side, peek out, hold, right, walk along, peek out, hold. You just want to be really cautious of a CT timing out peaks here. So when you first peek this and you don't see anybody, don't assume that there's nobody here. The other way you can scale is just crouch walk along this right side and just hold wide in case they do time out a peek here. And then as you approach this kind of angle, then you want to stand up and give this angle a real peek. Once you've scaled up here and you've taken this space and you've cleared these close angles, then you can throw a really sick lurk smoke, whether you're trying to apply pressure onto a site or if your team is actually executing. This is really good too. You get into the corner with this heater, aim at the inside corner of this rectangle right here, and just left click throw. This smoke lands on top of the truck and it provides you cover from sight and from moto, allowing you to isolate top balk or pit. You can also follow the smoke up with a flash at the exact same lineup. This is just going to pop bang right up here on the balcony. Once you're up out here, you can isolate a fight towards pit or use this to clear top balk like that. You can also jump on the railing and peek towards short or peek towards sight. Just to show you the CT perspective, this is an obnoxious smoke for them to be holding. And then from pit, now they're just isolated and they essentially have to play on this side if they want to hold the doorway. Some more util you can throw from apps on an execute. You get towards this fire exit sign, go to the third bar, so 1, 2, 3 to the right of it. And then from here, you stand up and you aim in the middle top of this fence right here. Just a little shift walk, left click throw. This is your pit molly that you can throw safely. You can follow that up with chimney flashes from this pillar. You just aim at the top left window of the chimney and you just left click throw these flashes. These will pop safely for your teammates. They won't get blind from them as they're scaling up short, and it's going to full blind anybody pit holding you here. One tip for apps is to really take advantage of early picks. If you walk up here and then bang, you get this early pick towards apps and you're confident there isn't a second player in here, maybe you hear somebody stepping on short, then you can apply a ton of pressure and really screw up the CT's positioning by just speeding up out of apps. You can drop a flash like that, boom, just scale out this way and avoid even fighting the short player, get into mini pit. You can get out here, smoke moto. Now, all of a sudden, this short player and this long player are both panicking because there's already a T out towards sight. This player's smoked off. Oh no. Take advantage of that pick. That is the beauty of punishing aggressive CTs and apps, and that's part of why being super aggressive in apps can be detrimental if you're a CT. You get so much space off of that and so much pressure. Your success as an apartments lurk is going to depend on your team's success in taking brackets. If your team doesn't have brackets and they haven't been applying pressure A, and this A site pit player has nothing else to think about aside from just holding you, you're going to be very ineffective as an apartments player. That's why it's kind of tricky often to play these lurk roles in pugs, because you're relying on your team to do stuff, which then allows you to do stuff. But if they don't do stuff, you can't really do that much stuff. So what that means is that, of course, you can still lurk into apps, take the space, okay, you're all good. And then you can come back towards boiler and try to help your team take middle, try to coordinate this mid take, right? If you just chill here the entire rest of the round, maintaining app space is a good thing to do on Inferno, right? It's just very important that you keep the space. However, if your team is struggling and they're not taking brackets or they're not taking car on banana, then you're going to be upset because you're not in a place to make impact and you're relying on your teammates to make impact. So overall, apartments is a cool position because it's very kind of independent. You don't have to rely on your teammates that much to take apartments. However, the problem with that is that it's an easier space to take than brackets or banana and car, which means that often you're going to be left not having a ton of impact if your team is struggling, right? If you're playing well and your team isn't and you're going to apartments, you're leaving a bunch of impact on the table. So if your team is doing well, lurk apartments 100%. But if you want to carry the game, it's very hard to carry the game by lurking in apartments. Lastly, on T side, let's talk about taking brackets and executing A. The first thing you need to know for brackets is a good long smoke. You just line up in the middle of this window here in second mid, you look at the corner of this building, and you just left click your smoke. This one is going to land very deep, which is exactly what you want. Because now if CTs are peeking behind it, this makes it very awkward to spam through because they have less visual cues to look at. The other thing is that it provides a little lurk opportunity for you as a T to lurk out and get into this cubby right here. So you can either throw that as a lineup, or you can walk up mid and then left click it against this wall. Boom, there you go. Within brackets, similar to how we talked about in Boiler, you want to avoid scaling on this wall. You want to avoid scaling on these walls, because if you're sliding against these walls, your peak is going to be trash, right? You're moving diagonally, it's slower, it's bad. So instead, create a little right angle for you as you're peeking, right? You want to get up, boom, peek, get up, boom, peek. That way you're peeking into the wall, so you're not exposed to the area you don't want to be exposed to, right? You're providing yourself space where you move forward as you're not exposing yourself to anything, and then you're moving horizontal when you are exposing yourself to the angle, which is what you want. A couple good mollies to know from this side: if you get out towards here and you just aim at the light and left click shift walk throw, this is your balcony molly. It's going to land under the balcony and clear out all of the space for you. You can also throw this really nifty molly from the right side of these garage doors. You have to have short control, right? Or else you're going to die. But if you have mid control, you're chilling. You aim at this triangle right here, bottom left of it, left click jump throw. It seems like a lot, but dude, this molly is so sick. It lands here on top of Balk, fully clears off Balk, and it's not 100% consistent, but sometimes it covers all of mini pit too. One key to brackets is just throwing the easiest flashes of all time. You can throw stupid easy flashes, and they are so annoying to deal with as these CT players. If I'm playing here and somebody throws this flash, what can I do? What are my options? It's so wide away from me. I have to turn it and I have to duck. And that is perfect because let's say we smoke off long and then we're flashing short like that. Then if they have to turn and they have to duck away from this flash, when they repeak, now instead of us just being on this angle or this way, now we can be out here. And so they repeak and boom, we could be here, 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 here. We could be running up this way. Boom. It's so good. Once you've taken brackets control and you want to get onto A, there are a few pieces of util that are going to be really helpful. One is a moto smoke. Moto smoke is so important. All you have to do is go to the end of this orange bit and then you aim in between this chimney and this roof right here up to the line of this roof. So I know that seems like a lot, but it's actually, I don't know, it works in my brain. In between these two up to that roof, and you just left click throw. This is your moto smoke, and it's going to block off the CT rotate. So as you're coming up through A, now the CTs can't be opping you or peeking you from library/long. What a lot of people don't know is that you can molly pit without having to peek pit. And that is thanks to this slanted wall right here. So if you're scaled up short, you have short control, you can peek out like this, and then left click run through your molly at this wall. It's going to bounce and then land in pit. Sometimes it leaves a gap towards this back corner, but if a CT is cognizant enough to see that and then sit in this corner and they get kills, I don't know, fair play. That would be freaking nuts. But most of the time, a CT is going to see this molly coming, panic, smoke it, run away, whatever, and you're going to clear out pit like that. In terms of flashbangs to throw from short, the best are typically flashes just over Balk like this. That way you're going to blind any CTs playing towards sight or rotating through this moto smoke. I think a lot of people have a lot of fear in pushing this area. The key is that the first person just has to send it. There's no like perfect easy way to clear this because there are so many crossfires as you get into this area. If you're first, just confidently peek something. Whether you're swinging towards sight or you're swinging top balk or you're swinging mini pit, just choose one and just freaking wide swing it. There's no reason to be scared and to peek like this. Otherwise, very easy to kill you, and you're not making any space for your team. So if you're trying to take A via short, the two things you need is a molly into pit and a smoke moto. If you don't have one of those two or either of them, the chances of this take being successful goes down drastically. In terms of wrapping arch and going towards arch, the likelihood that this goes well increases as CT numbers go down. So let's say early round we get a pick towards A and we get a pick towards B. Now it's a 5v3. The CTs have to play kind of gambly, which means they're more likely to play towards sites, right? Maybe they go 2 towards B and one sits in pit or stays in apps. Maybe they play 2 towards A and one's playing in sight and one's in pit. If we walk and just contact with 3 or 4 long, it's pretty freaking good because the CTs just don't have the numbers to hold everything, right? They're going to prioritize sites. Now, if you're not wanting to walk up just fully dry, one smoke you can throw from this corner is at the bottom of this window. You just left click jump throw, and this smoke is going to land right here and block off library and moto, allowing you to wrap towards CT. What this smoke also does is force the CTs to panic, because if they're in a 2-man A setup, let's say they have 1 moto and they have 1 pit, now, oh shit, the smoke is up, I can't see long. Maybe they call for a rotate from B, or this moto player panics and assumes that you guys are going to wrap B, and so they go through library and they want to hold arch and make sure the space is fine, which then allows you to just walk up short into A. So if you throw this smoke, a great option for you to do is just not even use it. Throw that smoke, apply the pressure, and just walk with your team up short, because it's pretty likely that the CTs are going to overreact. One more thing for A executes, don't lurk long unnecessarily. The very important part is that we take this space and we get into sight. If you walk long and you kill a rotate and then your team dies to the people who are actually holding the site, don't be mad, because you didn't do anything helpful. Job A is to take site, kill the anchors, and plant bomb. You killing a rotate is a bonus, cool, but that has no impact if your team isn't able to push A and take the site, and that's a hard thing to do, right? You need numbers, you need to be able to trade to do that. So prioritize getting up short and taking site with your team, rather than lurking towards long every time your team goes A. Okay, let's go over T side util. There is so much utility on Inferno, it's a very util heavy map. Check the pinned comment for timestamps with specific pieces of util if you're curious. Starting from spawn, there are a couple important pieces of util you can throw. One is the Kerrigan smoke towards B. You just get against this part of the wall, and then you aim up at the yellow dress where it meets this wire right here, and you W jump throw. This smoke lands behind half wall and is going to take out early CT mollies and deny info from CTs who are peeking car. Another smoke you can throw from spawn is the top mid lurk. You just get into this corner, you aim at the top middle of this design on the windowsill, and you left click jump throw. This lands right here in the middle of mid and prevents CTs from peeking down mid and allows you to pop through this and isolate one side. If you're rushing B and you have a bad spawn, you can get into this corner, aim in between this part of the antenna and the wall right here, and you just left click shift walk jump throw. This smoke is going to land in CT very quickly, and it's not going to land on the boost obviously, but you're just hoping the CTs didn't instantly boost at the beginning of the round. If you have a bad spawn and you want to support your B players, you can just jump up into this corner, aim at the top right of this sign right here, and left click jump throw. This is a really easy flash you can throw that's going to blind any CTs peeking down banana. 3 ways to molly car. One is you cross towards this right side, you aim in between these 2 windows and up, and you just bounce it right there. Boom. While you're running up, you can also aim towards the top of the wood part of car, and this is going to land and spread out behind car like that. The third way is just turning this corner, aiming up here, left clicking your molly, left clicking your nade, and then boom. If any CT is trying to get aggressive towards banana, you molly out car and you nade the half wall swing. As you're running up banana, throwing flashes to prevent aggression is quite important. You can bounce one against this barrel, or you can just throw a standard half wall flash like that. These are going to blind any CTs peeking here at corner or running up to peeky from car. The molly I call the anti-eco molly. You just aim high above car and let it bounce right there. This is going to land in this area and it's going to prevent CTs from playing sandbags or half wall. If you want to run up banana and get aggressive early, there are a few really good pieces of util you can throw. One is a molly towards corner. You just run up, scale on this left side, and you left and right click aiming quite high. This is going to land, boom, and it's going to molly out corner. Obviously, you can also throw sandbags molly. You just aim at the right side of this building, and that's going to land there in sandbag. You can do the same with an HE grenade for either of these lineups, right? If the CTs have been throwing a close molly consistently, then you can just bounce your smoke against half wall. This smoke is going to take out the molly, and it's not going to plume out super far this way. In terms of taking car from barrels, you can throw a whole ton of util. I just stand around here, aim towards the top of this chimney, crouch, walk throw. This is my corner molly, boom. You can also throw a sandbag molly. Just make sure you aim at the far right side of this building, or else you're not going to catch this deep corner right here. Bang, sandbags is mollied out. You can do the same thing with HEs for either of these lineups, right? Just crouch walk, boom, 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 bang. In terms of executing B, there's so much util you can throw, so I'm going to rapid fire this. Get into this corner for your CT smoke. You aim at the sliver of this window, bottom right of the pipe that cuts into it, and you W jump throw middle click. This smoke, boom, and then lands on top of the boost. From the same spot, you can smoke coffin, aim at the corner of car, just out into the left a little bit, shift walk, jump throw. This is going to land very quickly towards coffin and plume out fully, so then the CTs can't play this angle. In terms of mollies, if you get into this corner and aim at the top right part of this drain pipe, left click throw, that's your new box molly. Your oranges molly is top right of this one right here by this pipe. Left click throw, that's your oranges molly. Boom, boom, you have all of the space molly now. From this spot too, if you aim in between the light bulb and the top of this, just left click throw. These are flashes that are going to pop behind first orange and blind anybody towards coffin or pillar. For a god flash that's going to blind pretty much everything, just stand in this corner near the barrels, top left of this barrel at car, and you just left click jump through. You can follow this up by aiming below this finger right here, down to the ground, W jump throw. This flash pops above the balcony. It won't blind your teammates as they scale, and it's going to blind any CTs out here in the open. From the top of half wall, you can throw a really nice util set towards coffin. You just aim in between this bit and this bit of the scaffolding, left click throw your molly. Down here, you look at this O in original, and you left click jump throw at the O. Boom, you have deep coffin smoked, and then you have front coffin mollied off. You can follow this up with pillar flashes. You just aim in between the ladder and the scaffolding right here in the sky, and you just left click throw. These flashes pop behind pillar and aren't going to blind your teammates as they scale up. Before your execute, you can also throw a nade towards CT. Just same spot here on half wall. You aim at the first one in 1810, and then you left click jump throw at the top of it. This nade, bang, is going to decimate any CT playing in CT. If you're trying to get out middle, then from your spawn, you just run up and you left click a flash right in front of you. Boom, you swing off of this, and this is going to blind any CT with an op peeking down here trying to get aggressive. From middle, there are really good smokes to learn from this spot. If you sit here and then aim at this chunky bit of the antenna, left click jump throw, that's a library smoke. You look up here towards this drain pipe, this little spot that sticks out under the wire, you left click jump throw, that's your arch smoke. And then if you crouch and aim below this light bulb, just right here, left click jump throw, that's a moto smoke. So here they are, boom, there's your arch smoke, your library smoke, and the moto smoke is just landing now. After you throw those, if you want to throw a pop flash for your team middle, just get to this side of the little half wall, aim at the bottom of the shadow, left click jump throw. This flash is going to bang, blind anybody playing out in these sort of angles. Note that if they're playing a tight angle like this, it will not blind them. As you're running up second mid, the very important piece of util you need to know is how to molly boiler. For this molly, all you're going to do is run below the left side of the bridge. You aim where these stairs meet the ground right here, below the window right there, and then you left click jump throw as you're passing this part of the bridge. This is the earliest way you can molly boiler. If you run up and molly it like this, your timing is screwed and somebody can be ahead of this molly peeking you. After you throw that molly, if you're worried about somebody peeking you mid, just bouncing a flash like this can be a really effective way to deter aggressive CTs from fighting you on this angle. Within apartments, there's not a whole bunch of util that's really helpful in terms of taking apartments. One thing is just mollying boiler. You just aim at the top of the stairs here, and that's a very consistent way to get a molly deep into boiler and flush any CT out of here. From boiler, you can throw some pretty easy util on the fly. Just throw a smoke against the wall to smoke off long. This isn't the most perfect smoke. Typically, you want the smoke deeper. However, that's not really possible from boiler without peeking out. Throwing util towards short is really good. If you stand more towards the right and then you aim in the middle of the door frame and you run left click throw your molly, this is going to molly off under balcony and these close angles. If you're worried about somebody holding you on an angle like this, all you have to do is just left click throw your flash like that, and then this lets you peek this angle because the CT, obviously it's a reactable flash, but what can they do aside from turn away or run away? For the lurk smoke from apps, all you have to do is get into this corner right here with the heater, aim at the inside corner of this little rectangle in the wall, and just left click throw. This smoke is going to land on top of the truck and provide you cover from sight to isolate pit or top balk. You can also jump on top of the railing and peek short or look inwards towards sight. From the same spot, you can also throw a flash that's going to land on top of balcony. This one will blind anybody playing up here, holding you on this kind of angle. To molly pit from apps, you just go to the fire exit sign and then the third bar over, 1, 2, 3. From here, you line up and you look in the middle of this bit of the fence and you just shift walk, left click throw. This molly is going to bounce and boom, fully molly out pit. After you throw that, you can throw chimney flashes just from around this fire exit sign. Look up at the chimney, top left of this bit, and you just left click throw these flashes. These are going to be safe for your teammates getting out balk, and it's going to blind any CT holding you from default. Even from sight, it'll blind people playing here, and of course from pit. In terms of taking middle / brackets, this space right here, you can throw long smoke from second mid safely. You just line up in the middle of this window, you aim up at the corner of this building, just off to the right a little bit, and left click throw. This is going to be a deep long smoke that's going to fully block vision from CTs if they're trying to peek towards middle. From here, you can also throw a really nice pop flash for long. You just aim at the corner up to where this line on the roof is and left click throw. This flash, boom, pops over the building and is going to catch any CT playing on an angle like this. Up within brackets, you can throw very easy util on the fly, throw a long smoke like that. If you get over here and you start to be able to see the lamp, but you're not exposed to short, you can throw a molly or porch for short like that. This is going to molly out the entire space right here. Within the space, bouncing flashes is your best friend as well in order to get CTs off of angles. These flashes are so easy and so annoying for CTs to deal with. Once you want to get towards sight, if you line up right here along this orange wall where it meets the gray wall, you aim in between this chimney and this roof, right in the middle, up to the line of this roof. So boom, boom, right in the middle, up to the line, left click throw. That's your moto smoke, bang, bang, bang. And then once you're up mid, you can throw a molly into pit without peeking it by aiming at this slanted wall right here. So you just get back here, you aim up high, typically towards this yellow building right here, left click run throw, boom, there's your molly that's going to burn out in pit. And there's your moto smoke. If you have the time here in brackets, then you can throw a really sick molly from this spot to the right of the garage door. Just line up with this. At this wall, you're going to aim at the bottom left of this triangle and just a left click jump throw. This molly is going to bounce off of the roof of balk and fully molly out balk, including this corner. And it often spreads into mini pit, flushing a player out of this corner as well. It's pretty hard to throw really effective flashes for getting up short. The best you can do is left clicking flashes above balcony here. That way, these flashes are going to blind any CTs holding short like this or from default, or even towards pit. One smoke to throw towards long if you want to wrap B or apply a lot of pressure on CTs is getting into this corner, aiming at the bottom middle of this window, left click jump throwing. This smoke is going to land out here and it's going to completely block vision from moto and from library, allowing you to get into arch and wrap towards B or to lurk through it if you feel like that's the play. Okay, now let's jump over to CT side. From spawn, there's plenty of really good util you can throw. You can throw the phase smoke mid by getting in front of these wires. You aim up at this design in the roof. This left side of it, W jump throw. This smoke is going to land in the middle of mid and completely block vision from underpass and from ramp, allowing you guys to get really aggressive towards second mid. If you want to be the ultimate support player, you can get in front of these two chairs and you can throw two really helpful smokes for your B players from here. One is if you aim at this corner right here, you left click jump throw. This is a smoke that's going to land in front of barrels. If you aim at this middle pillar at the bottom of it, left click jump throw, that's your bottom B smoke. So here's the barrels smoke. Completely blocks off the cubbies and allows your B players to isolate this space. Bottom B smoke, boom, pretty standard. In terms of B util, the close molly you can throw a couple ways. One, you can just aim low and left click run throw it right there. That's totally fine. Another is just bouncing it against the wall here. This one is going to get further towards the left if you're worried about somebody running towards half wall. In terms of anti-rush HEs, the first one is if you run along this left side and then you left and right click aim towards this bit of the roof and then run forward, left and right click throw. This is going to land in the middle of banana. The other one you can do, it's a bit simpler. You just turn the corner, left click throw your nade right there, bang. These two are going to do a ton of damage against Ts who are rushing B. For throwing util at the two cubbies being barrels and broom, broom, from corner, obviously barrels, you just throw it into this area. For broom, if you aim towards the top of this window or a little bit up, you just want the util to land on this part of the wall. That way it's going to bounce over towards broom, and this is going to do a ton of damage to anybody tucked in this corner. If you want to peek banana and you want to flash for yourself, you can run and left click throw a flash against the building, and this flash is going to pop behind you and blind any Ts running up B. You might not have known that from car you can throw util into this corner here towards ramp very safely. As long as you know nobody's barrels or nobody's being aggressive banana, you just get out here, aim towards the bottom of this pipe, and shift walk left click throw. This is going to nuke anybody holding this angle here. Another way you can flash banana to peek from behind sandbag, you just get against the sandbag, aim up here, left and right click throw at this part of the roof. This flash is going to pop up, bang, and you have just enough time to run up behind it and swing with it. If you want to get aggressive, then one smoke you need to know is the Furia smoke. You just aim at the bottom part of this window right here. You left click throw the smoke. This is going to land out this way, and it's going to get rid of any T mollies towards car and allow you to peek right here or to run through it. In terms of supportive util, you can flash for your B players to go peek from this pillar right here, this column in CT. You just aim towards the middle of the sign and you W jump throw while left and right clicking, middle click. This flash is going to pop above car and once again blind any Ts running up banana. Another flash you can throw to support your B player is the coffin flash. You just get into this corner right here, you aim at the top of this antenna and left click throw. You have a teammate right here tucking, they swing off this flash, and this is going to blind anybody up here car holding this angle. If you throw that flash and your teammate doesn't see anybody, you can follow that up by aiming at this middle pipe in the scaffolding up to the roof and left click throwing. This is a very good flash for them to then peek car with. Okay, now let's talk about some retake util for car. From CT, same spot as the flash, just middle of this pillar. With the smoke, you're gonna aim the left side of this sign right here in the middle, and you're just going to jump throw left and right click. For the molly right here, W jump throw left and right click. I'll show the molly again. I have to throw the molly early or else the smoke extinguishes it. You look for this dark line, and then just inwards into the left corner right here, W jump throw. That's the molly. It's going to get extinguished because of smoke, so with this util set, you have to be able to throw it pretty quick. An easier set you can throw from sight, you get into this corner by the fountain, you aim at this part of first orange, shift walk, left click jump throw with your smoke, and then exact same thing with your molly. Boom, your smoke is down, your molly lands on car, and now you can go to retake the space. Here are two ways you can nade half wall from sight or CT. One way, first way, from CT, you look at this window, you make the window meet this wall. So right there, and then you aim in the middle of this orange patch near the ground, get your nade out, and then you just take a step, left click, jump throw as you're taking a step. This is going to nuke anybody here near half wall. The second way is from coffin. You just get up onto the top of coffin. You don't want to hold W too much or else you're going to screw the lineup up. Just jump up right here, and you're going to aim at the bottom bit of this part of second orange. Run and left click jump throw. Bang, there's your other half wall nade. Two ways to smoke off B from coffin. One, you just get towards this corner, left and right click, aim at that part of the roof. This is a very easy and safe B block smoke. Another one, you get into this corner, and then kind of far away, you see where these wires meet right here in the middle. If you just left click from this spot, this is your B block smoke. So what you can do is get into this lineup, come up here, don't move your mouse, just jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. See if you see anybody. Once you do, get back to the corner, left click throw, and then bang, you're blocking B. The coffin pop flash that is so good is you just get around this corner, crouch, and then you aim at this line right here above this sack, left click jump throw. Boom, this is going to land in front of coffin, which then allows you to jump up and play right here. Or of course you can let it pop and then swing out this way. From new box, you can throw lurk smokes for yourself, just so that you can stay alive longer. One is on this right side. The other that you'll see a lot too is on this left side. This one is really nice because it gives you space behind it and lets you play over here towards pillar, or you can just maybe stay new box with it, make the T's wonder where you are, and then swing from here. A really nice pop flash from first orange. You sit in this corner, you look at this big part of the wood, just on the top side of it, left click throw. This flash is going to pop below the wall, which then allows you to peek with it. From CT, if you want to swing through the CT smoke, there are a few different ways you can flash. One is just throwing a flash into grill/pool. You just left click it there, boom, you swing in front of that. Another is just right clicking in front of you, swinging with that, right? You can also throw flashes against this wall. These aren't going to get as deep, but they're pretty nice little pop flashes for you to throw if you're wanting to swing this. Towards A, early util you can throw is just nading or mollying down mid. You just swing out, aim to the right of this building in towards the blue. You could also swing wider and aim for this chimney, that works too. But just getting a nade down mid or a molly down mid, that way you punish the T's for running out mid, and with the molly you can also molly off Mexi. You can throw a cheeky lurk smoke for yourself by getting into this corner. I look at this dot up into the middle of this orange, left click throw. This smoke is going to land out here and it's going to allow you to walk through it and get towards this right side. I don't have my map, so it's hard to navigate, but allows you to lurk out this way, isolate Mexi or anybody down mid. If you think the T's are going to run up mid on you, or you just want to pop flash to peek close middle, you can get into this corner here, aim up from this corner up to this roof, left and right click throw, bang, and then you can swing with this. This flash is really hard to react to as a T, and it's going to let you go peek mid much safer. If you're wanting to flash second mid because you have a teammate going to peek boiler, then from long, you just get out here, you aim at the corner of this building, and you run left click throw your flash. I think shift walking works too if you're a bit closer. These are going to pop above second mid and blind any Ts who are running up this way. If you're playing long and you want to re-smoke middle, but you really don't want to peek it, maybe an opper's holding you or whatever the reason is, you can line up against this back wall and you just slide against it until this wall cuts through this window. So anywhere where this wall cuts through the window, you aim up here where these dark bricks meet each other, these dark stones. In the middle of them, left and right click jump throw. This is a really easy and nice smoke to re-smoke middle without having to peek it. If you're long and the T's are pushing A, or you're just rotating in late, then from the top of this mailbox, you can throw a molly towards default just by aiming at the light bulb, left click throw. This is going to land right here and molly out anybody planting right here. Another molly you can throw from here is exact same spot. You look at this design in this flower pot, bottom right of it, and you left click throw. This molly bounces on the roof and lands here in the corner to get this headshot angle out and this corner flushed out. When you're trying to retake A as a CT, here's some util you can throw. This smoke I saw from CS Tactics, shout out to him. You just go on the middle step right here in arch, and then this design just slightly to the right of it, left click throw. This is a nice retake smoke that is going to block off mini pit and big pit as you're trying to get into sight. From boiler, if you throw this molly around 143 on the clock, you just shift walk left click throw. This is going to deny the boiler jump or the bedroom jump for any T's. It also allows you to creep up behind it. From pit, if you drop your smoke into this corner, this will leave you a gap on this right side to hold the cross into sight. You can also scoot to the left side and hold the walkout from apps. It can often leave a gap on this right side too for you to fight into short with. So there's a bunch of util for you. Really just focus on the basics here. A good long smoke from here, a moto smoke is incredibly important, and knowing how to throw util towards CT and towards coffin. Those are the biggest ones. Make sure you have those down before moving on to more complicated, more niche lineups. Goober, you made it through the entire video. Thank you so much. You deserve a medal. If you made it, if you're seeing this, comment, give me a medal or something about a medal, and I'll make sure I reply to recognize your bravery and sacrifice for watching this behemoth of a video. Shout out to my channel members here on YouTube. They allow me to be a goober on the internet. They're scrolling right over there. Thank you guys so much. You can be one of them. We do members only streams every week, 10-man demo reviews, etc. It's super fun. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like if you haven't. Have a great day and good luck and have fun in all of your future games. Peace out.